Alrighty. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry. Hold on, you all. We'll be right back. Hold on 1 second. Alrighty. Sorry about that. Well, not sorry. Just had to do something real quick. Alright. Hopefully everyone, all is doing well. We give all honor and praise to the Most High. Yahweh Elohim. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Alma, who lives a life that is able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Appreciate of you all. Thank you for being on one more again. And hopefully you guys are ready to learn some different things that Yah has for us. For today, for the rest of the day, we don't have really much planned. Well, we don't have anything planned outside of our normal stuff for Tuesday, except for our 12 minutes of Christmas. So basically, we have our live session now at about 6 p.m. Eastern New York time. We will have our at about 6 p.m. Eastern New York time. We will have our 12 minutes of Christmas. Celebration, not even celebration, I guess conversation, teaching, meeting, gathering, whatever we're calling it. We'll watch a quick video. I think today is supposed to be the cartoon. So prayerfully that'll be something that you guys can watch today and see. And if you have questions, comments, or concerns about anything, let us know. And then after that, we'll be on at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time on YouTube and TikTok. Pray First will be on the road, so more than likely you'll see us from another location by that time. But we thank you, we appreciate, love you, and we're thankful and grateful to everybody who's joining us at this moment in time. So thank you again, appreciate, love you. We're gonna go to the moderators, ministerial staff, SOC, Lottie, Di, and everybody. Love you all in life. Thank you for being on, secretary, etc. Everybody, thank you for being on. Appreciate, love you. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get to the United Compensatory Code /System/Concept, the book that we've been in. This series is called Neely Fuller and Code, because if I called it what I probably should call it, TikTok and YouTube and all these other platforms would have an extreme problem with it. So we're trying to keep it to where nobody can say that we're messing with persons, but we're going to go back to our book. Of course, we'll be using the Bible as well and using other things culturally to be able to use context. Because we know we have the biblical code already, so we've already got the code. That being said, we're going to use this book called The United Independent Compensatory Code /System/Concept. It is written by Neely Fuller Jr. That's Neely space Fuller space Jr. If you look up Neely Fuller Jr. PDF, you'll be able to find a PDF if you would like to follow. The first one is the one I'm going to be using to let you know if you're not paying for it or downloading it. It does have a lot of advertisements, so just giving you a heads up with that. And even though we are going through a lot of things in this book thoroughly, this is a very long book. It's a handbook, right? It's a guide. It's something that's supposed to be used as a workbook. So this is something that it takes a long time. Some persons have been studying this their whole life, right? This book, and still are getting a lot out of it. The book is written very well. And it's something that's been around. So we're just kind of introducing it to some or reintroducing it to others. And this is part 6. So we've been doing this for a little while now out of this book. So I just want to make sure that we give that disclaimer. There are certain things that you may ask, questions, comments, concerns you may give. And we might say, hey, we've already gone over this in the book before. The definitions that we're using during this time that we're going through the series through the rest of the year, you might need to catch up on those. So I'll do my best, but this is a whole book, and the goal is to make sure that those who are victims of racism, white supremacy, remember, racism is not what we're talking about. We're talking about racism, white supremacy. A lot of persons don't know the difference, right? But the book that we're using to go through racism, white supremacy, it has definitions, and the goal is not to try and attack you because you're white. The goal is not to try and attack you because you're black. The goal is not to hide the fact that we, as so-called black folk, have a lot of issues and have a lot of trauma. Matter of fact, the book is not necessarily telling you all the steps that are necessary to get out of the trauma. It's just basically telling you, hey, this is what justice looks like, this is what injustice looks like, and work needs to be done in between, but we need to have a code to where we need to have something, we need to have a goal to where at least we can say this is the goal to get out, this is the goal if you're staying in, this is who you should look out for, etc., etc. So the book is not written in a lot of ways that persons are looking for, persons are thinking about. The book is written very specifically and very strategically to deal with racism, white supremacy, as far as us having a code and us having a code that we can speak amongst each other. All right? So we want to make that very clear before we go through. So we'll get ready to do our Bible pledge. If you want to stand to your feet and reverence Jehovah's word, or if you want to just, however you can reverence Jehovah's word, we appreciate, love you, and thank you for doing so. Let's go ahead and get into this. But first, let's say shalom to everybody. How you doing, Sister Beck? Minister Anais, Minister Shantae, Culture Prospect, everybody on Facebook, everybody on the podcast. How you doing, Trey? How you doing, Sister Knight? How you doing, Dr. T, Cole, Bold Servant, Bruder Charlie? Okay, Bernard Robinson, Darius. How's everybody doing? Minister Select, Raj. Everybody come on in, come through. We appreciate, love you. Thank you for being on today. Wavy Davy. I'm having issues with my screen. I'm sorry, y'all. I have a little bit of issues with my screen, but let's see. Keith, In Motion, Bryn, Sister Jennifer, Brother Rodney. And if I miss you on any platform, charge it to my head, not to my heart. And thank you so much. Yeah. We appreciate, love you. Thank you for those. Hashtag Find Kofi. Thank you for those looking for us and whatever. Hopefully those who are looking for us later on, they'll be able to find us and remember or recall that we're still on. Praise God, they're making it to where persons can't see us at all anymore. So thank you guys for at least looking through, scrounging through, following us. And we're going to get ready to do our Bible pledge in just a little bit. So if you want to go ahead, once again, if you're ready to reverence that word, thank you for doing so. We'll go ahead and say our Bible pledge together. You can either put your Bible in the air or put your device in the air. If you'd like to put your right hand in the air, just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Hashem Yehovah. Aman, which is in Yehovah's name, his authority. Amen. Thank you so much. You may be seated to go back to what you were doing in the presence of the Most High Yah. And we thank you for doing so. Thank you for joining us. Amen. All righty. So we're going to go back to our book. And once again, the book is called The United Compensatory Code System, or Code/System/Concept. It is by Neely Fuller Jr. All right. And we finished yesterday with 4 basic show-offisms. We were on page 41, and we talked about 4 basic show-offisms, and that got persons into a whole thing. And Tizzy and I told you guys, there's going to be a lot of stuff in here where persons are going to be frustrated, right? And even some of the persons who are on here, if I'm being honest, you guys have been even trying to complain about us and stuff like that because you don't like what we've been talking about. And they don't like how we've been dealing with stuff that has to deal with the people. But there are people who've been damaged by racism, white supremacy, more than others. That's the goal of it, that you have certain persons who are in the bottom. And so even in your complaints and everything, not just to us, but even about us, just know that it doesn't really mean that you're righteous and you're doing, right? We talked about this yesterday. My goal is not to say white persons are evil. Matter of fact, even the book says that there's white supremacists and white people. Right? There's non-white people, white racists, or those who are white into racism, white supremacy. But what we're not going to do is ignore racism, white supremacy, and not call out things that are used to benefit racism, white supremacy. Right? We're going to make sure that we don't do that. So, if you came here for me to white bash, you're going to be disappointed. If you came here for me to ignore the problems that come with racism, white supremacy, though, you came to the wrong place as well. So we want to make that very clear, right? And so we've learned a lot so far in this series. Yesterday we learned about stuff like racism, meism, twoism, tribalism, or so-called tribalism, and even what was the last ism? Tribalism and universalism, right? Where something becomes something that is universal. And we learned a lot of different ways and different things. We've seen a lot of different stuff, and so we want to look at some different things that are in here to help you, right? So we're going to go to talk about some basic things that we should look for if we are the victims of racism, white supremacy. We're going to start there today. So we're going to page. We're going to go to page 49. We're going to start at page 49, and we're going to go over 10 basic stops that victims of racism should practice in speech and or action. 10 basic stops. So there's more, but these are the basics, right? In other words, 10 things you should stop doing. 10 basic stops that victims of racism should practice in speech and or action. So if you are part of the people who have suffered from racism, white supremacy, you should not be doing these 10 things. How you doing, Pastor? How you doing, Sister Mignon? Is it Static Shock? Thanks for being on. Right? How you doing, Sister Brea, Sister Crystal? Everybody coming in. Appreciate you. Right? So we're going to be on page 49 today. And these are 10 basic stops, or 10 things you should stop doing, right? If you are a victim of racism, white supremacy. You should stop doing them, not just stop doing them, but specifically even in speech as well as action. So we're not talking about just even what you're saying, what you're doing is problematic, or you do it. What you do is not just problematic, but what you're speaking. Right? How you doing, Jose? So these are 10 basic stops, or 10 things that we should stop. Am I still on TikTok? Yes, I'm on TikTok right now. So how you doing, Sister Snap? So these are 10 basic stops. The 10 things that we should stop doing. If we say that we want out of racism, white supremacy, here are 10 things that you must stop. Or, if you are the victim of racism, white supremacy, and you like to get out, if you like so-called justice. Justice in this context, justice in this book, means to be anti-racism, white supremacy, or to break the system of racism, white supremacy. So if you're looking for justice, how you doing, DMZ? These are 10 things that we should stop doing. Number one, watch this. This is some stuff that's going to bring you back to your childhood. But mama, daddy, brothers, sisters, friends, foes, whatever, they were telling you the truth when you were growing up. You ready? So when I saw this one made me smile. All right. Number one, stop snitching. Stop snitching. Reason or explanation. To snitch. So this is code. We're going to talk about code words, right? Here's the code. To snitch is to willfully and deliberately volunteer information about a person or persons with specific intention of gaining direct or indirect personal favors and or praise from racists. Did you catch that? That's the code. Stop snitching. What is snitching? When we say snitching, what do we mean? To snitch is to willfully and deliberately volunteer information about a person or persons with the specific intention of gaining direct or indirect personal favors and or praise from racists. When victims of racism or carry messages about and or witness against any person or persons in a manner that gives aid and comfort to racists, such actions only help to promote injustice. Right? So stop snitching is point number one on these 10 points we're going to go over. Right? Point number one, stop snitching. And what is the snitch? To snitch, as far as we're concerned, is to go ahead and start telling on somebody, so to speak. You tattletelling with the intent. Now, intent is everything in snitching, right? You tattletelling, you telling on somebody with the intent of hoping that you can get some personal gain from it, right? If somebody does something to your family member, if somebody takes the life of somebody in your circle, right, and you want justice, that's justice. Us hurting each other also helps racism, white supremacy. Don't get it twisted, right? That's not what we're talking about. Because, for us, a lot of us who come from a different place, stop snitching means something a little different, right? Even in your house, stop snitching. Why are you snitching all the time? Why are you tattletelling, right? That's not what we're talking about exactly. We're talking about a specific purpose that somebody is telling on somebody in the diaspora with the hopes that somebody in the diaspora will be able to come or I'm sorry, somebody outside the diaspora will give us a reward. How you doing, double OG, triple OG? You catch the difference? See, when we say snitching, right, we're talking about that you're going to get a reward. And basically, in essence, even if you're on the street, that's really kind of what snitching is. See, snitching is really supposed to be more. Y'all be thinking snitching is just telling on somebody. Or if you not a civilian, so to speak, for those who know about that life, if you're not a civilian, then you shouldn't be snitching, right? Only civilians can snitch. But no. Snitching is if a whole bunch of us get caught, what they do is they take you in different rooms, right? So let's say we doing whatever. We decided that we're gonna protect somebody in the family, right? Something go down, we gotta protect them. It is what it is, and we say, hey, we agreed, touch and agree. We ain't gonna do blah blah whatever, right? We did what we had to do. We made sure the family was safe. If the police come looking, don't say nothing, blah blah. The police get enough information. They say, yo, we gonna take y'all to the station. Damn, all right, whatever. And we kind of look at each other like, yo, no snitching. Now, what happens is the police aren't gonna keep you in the same room, right? You're not gonna be in the same place, right? You're not gonna be in the same place. You're not gonna be in the same room, right? They're gonna take you and they're gonna put you in different places, and they're gonna go ahead and they're gonna basically put on the table, hey, if you guys don't snitch, both of y'all can get 20 years. Or both, if one of y'all snitch on each other, you get 20 years, right? This is how they usually do it. Something similar to this. It might not always be, but it's gonna be something similar to this. Hey, both of you, they put you in there. Hey, this person, if y'all don't snitch, we know y'all guilty. We're gonna give y'all 20 years. What they'll say is though, if you both don't, right? Let's say both of you don't go for it. Then you go, okay, well I'm not going for that. Whatever. I'm not snitching. Then they say, okay, look. If you don't snitch for real, you still gonna get no less than 5. But if you snitch on your partner, you'll probably only get 1, and will get you off for great behavior. Then you still say, nah, man, no snitching, man. Just go ahead. I'm talking to my lawyer. But what do they do? Then after that, they'll bring some. Then what they'll say is, oh, well, your boy already done snitched on you, so you might as well tell us, right? So they try to offer you rewards, and they're trying to get you. And by the way, they have you on nothing most of the time, which means that you probably gonna walk out the door anyways if you would just stand strong, right? And there's no benefit; they can get no gain, and they want a gain. So they're saying they want a gain from it. They want to go ahead and destroy it, even if you're innocent. They need somebody to be guilty so that they can say, hey, we're doing our job, and we can ask for more money. You're just a cog in the wheel, right? So a lot of persons think snitching is, oh, somebody told on somebody. It's not that. It's not actually that. It's more heinous. It's, hey, we have an agreement as a community, or we have an agreement as a couple persons that, look, we're not going to snitch on each other no matter what. Even if we're innocent, we're not saying anything. We don't talk to the popo. And if we go in there and they say, if you talk to them, that's one thing. But if you talk to them because they said they'll sell me up the river, right? They'll mess me up. You'll sell my soul, so to speak. You'll sell me out so that you can get a prize. You can get a gain, right? You'll become an informant. That's when it becomes snitching, right? So, and when we're talking about code in this, the snitching, we shouldn't be snitching on each other. We shouldn't be giving information about each other about certain things, right? Specifically, this is snitching, what? For the benefit that comes, right, to racism, white supremacy, where we shouldn't be telling on one another simply because if I sell on you, the persons that oppress us won't oppress me, and maybe they'll even give me a little promotion and they'll oppress you, right? That's snitching. And it happens more than just on the street. We don't fully know the truth. We speak lies to gain favor, right? Right? Yeah. So the snitching, right? Even stuff that persons do now, when you see persons that are placating and they jumping and they dancing, you know, when you see our people, our diaspora out there, and they can't wait, and they see you're like, dang, they way far right. And I'm not on the right or the left. I'm just saying, you ever notice that there's a lot of cats out there, and they be dancing for these folks, and you're like, dang, like you straight up, you know, I know y'all say Tommen or Coonin and stuff like that, but you got that Sambo spirit on lock. How you doing, Sister Sally? And we be like, man, you got that Sambo spirit on lock. You really, really, really out there. You really like doing a lot of stuff. You really out there perpetrating. You really, and you be saying all this stuff, and you can't wait to tell everybody every bad thing that every black person has said. But they're hoping that by doing that, they get more white views. They're hoping that they get that, you know, that they get to go ahead and go to the rally. And when they get to the rally and they get to be the black person over there, that means that they get stuff. So they're doing it purely for the benefit of the one who oppresses them and oppresses their people. They can't wait to tell you why black culture is evil, and not even ask you who owns so-called black culture, who's the one who has to put a stamp of approval on what is shown and tells you and teaches you black culture is. They're not going to do all that because that would not benefit racism, white supremacy. Therefore, that, by definition, by our definition, by our code, that's a snitch. Right? How you doing, Opal Walker? Right? How you doing, Fidel? How you doing, Monster? You see, there's a difference. You catch the differences? There's a difference between what they, you know, we just think snitch, oh, you told on somebody. No. A snitch, as far as we're concerned, is somebody who is giving away information and is also trying to do things specifically with the intent of gaining approval from those who are in racism, white supremacy. That's their intent. See, so we have a different mindset with the word snitch, at least for this series, right? All right, so that's what a snitch is. A snitch is somebody who's doing this, who's telling on folk, who's trying their best to put information out, even if it's misinformation. You know, snitches can put misinformation out as well. You don't have to tell the truth to be a snitch. You know that, right? They have persons in the government who are paid to give information out or to show up in court all the time. Whether what they say is true or not, that doesn't matter. We just need somebody to snitch. So I'm just saying, you got all this stuff going on. You got a lot of persons who snitch. And that, once again, I'm not saying if somebody did something wrong or hurt somebody that we shouldn't tell. What I'm saying is if somebody's doing something specifically just to get favor, as far as racism, white supremacy is concerned, then we should go ahead and label that person as what they are. Right? And you don't have to tell the truth. You don't have to tell the truth to be a snitch. A snitch doesn't have to tell the truth. There's many government witnesses who say things and they coach them, right? If you ever gone to court, maybe you've been a witness before, or you've seen witnesses. If you've ever sat down in the courtroom and watched how it goes, if you've ever watched some of your favorite stuff, some of you, you watch other persons, celebrities, stuff like that. A lot of y'all, grew up with the OJ trial, whatever it is. You watch certain things go down in the courtroom. When you watch what goes down in the courtroom, some of you were watching what was going on with, who's the cat that was going through the Georgia stuff? Whatever his name is, Young Thug, right? Some of y'all was watching Thugger go through his stuff, right? They train, they coach, they have persons go through things, right? To make sure that the government is going to get whatever. Even if the government is getting the person to lie, you got to go through and they coach you on what to say. So it's not about telling the truth. It's about making sure that racism, white supremacy lives. So you don't have to tell the truth to snitch, right? Or to be a snitch. All right. So next part of that. So stop snitching is point number one. We're still in this. It says it is just and correct for all persons to the best of their will and ability to avoid situations wherein they believe they may be tempted to and or expected to snitch. Snitching does not mean speaking to protect yourself from false accusations. So once again, you tell the truth. That's not the issue. Or from other unjust acts. So this is if you're talking about racism, white supremacy coming against you, or if you're just protecting yourself, that's not snitching. Snitching does mean to say something to try to get ahead of someone else by taking unjust advantage of his or her lack of correct judgment. Watch this. Snitching does mean to say something to try to get ahead of someone else by taking unjust advantage of his or her lack of correct judgment. Same thing. They split you up in the room, or they put you in two different rooms. They talking. Somebody's gonna say, "I'm not gonna snitch no matter what." Here you are snitching. They gotta serve 15. You get out on on great behavior, right? And hear what he said here. If you got to protect yourself from false accusations, that's different. That's not snitching, right? False accusations that are coming against you, that's not snitching. I'm not this, I'm not that. I didn't do, fine, right? But when you get to a place where it's like, I'm gonna try, I didn't do, but so and so did. Now, watch this. If so and so did something that's gonna drag you down, defend yourself, because that person has put you in an unfair advantage. But what we really were getting to in talking about this, you guys know in our diaspora what this really is talking about. How many brothers, sisters as well too, because sisters, y'all, who we keep talking about how down some of y'all sisters are for these brothers, and you'll go and you'll do jail time for them, and then you come out, and you like, what's your face on that show? Everybody like on Empire, Cookie or something, and y'all like Cookie, and y'all go in and y'all do all this time, and then you just gonna be ignored when you come out. There's a lot of sisters who don't snitch too. Right, there's a lot of sisters who don't snitch because you're not supposed to. There's a lot of sisters that don't snitch because you're supposed to protect us, even when we're doing things that could hurt the household. Right? We're doing things that could hurt your child. We're doing things that could hurt your household. We're doing things that could hurt your parents. Right? But you're not supposed to snitch. You've been taught not to defend yourself as well. Right? But that's unjust. Right? If we're doing something that causes racism, white supremacy to show up at your door, that's unjust. You catch that? They can spring from snitching for sure, right? But you have a code on the street that says basically, hey, don't tell, don't tell, don't tell, don't tell, don't tell. And it gets to a point to where they'll say, well, civilians can tell, but then they tell civilians, don't tell either. Don't tell or we're going to shoot you, don't tell or blah, blah. You are into racism, white supremacy, believe it or not, because now persons that are innocent have to be drugged down too. See, snitching is not protecting the innocent. If somebody's innocent, they should be protected. You hear what I'm saying? Snitching is not protecting the innocent. In our diaspora, especially a lot of Hebrew Israelites, I know y'all don't want to hear this, brother, but Hebrew Israelites, a lot of us come from gang mentality. Believe it or not. A lot of us come from gang mentality. We were raised in it. We were schooled in it. That's why a lot of rough stuff. There's a lot of us that are rough around the edges. A lot of us are like NOI still, right? A lot of us don't know how to take some of that street stuff off. I'm glad that you got a street mind to a certain degree because, hey, some of us are soldiers. Some of us need to go in a certain places. Some of us need to protect. Some of us need to be front line. I get it. But that being said, right, you still coming with some wild stuff from the street. And in the streets, they used to tell you, hey, you can't snitch at all. You can't say blah, blah. But protecting the innocent is not snitching. And if you're bringing harm to the innocent, then you are worse than a snitch. Right? Put it like this. What's worse in our community? This is something that we got to work on. What's worse in our community? The person who snitches or the person who takes life? Right? I'm not about the whole black on black crime the way that they try to present it. I know what they be trying to do, but let's be honest. What's worse? Is it worse to snitch or is it worse to take the lives of your community members? And I'm not just talking about when you be shooting them up. No. I'm talking about if you sell stuff that persons shoot up and it takes their lives and it takes their livelihood and it takes their finances and it takes their families. Which one is worse, the snitch or the one who's doing that? But you've been taught that if somebody in your community is dealing that thing, you're not supposed to tell on them because that would make you a snitch. Can you see how that leads to us lifting up terrible behavior, terribly disgusting behavior? Can you see how awesomely wicked that can be? If you're building up something, if you're building up a diaspora and you're building up your society, your community's built up, and you guys are more concerned about the snitch than you are about the one who's taking the lives of your community members, something's wrong with you. And thank you for the love, right? And how you doing, Wait, why no? So this is You see what I'm saying? Something's wrong with you. If you legit are more concerned about the snitch than the person who actually is taking the lives of community members, something's wrong with you. Right? We have more honor. I know you don't want to hear it this way, but a lot of our communities have more honor for the person who takes the lives of persons daily because of what they shoot in their arms than we have for the snitch. Now, the snitch, once again, snitching is wrong. But snitching is supposed to be when somebody is doing something or telling on somebody for personal gain to make sure that racism, white supremacy is taking place, right? But you guys don't even think about the damage that's done by the person who actually is bringing the fentanyl and all this other stuff in, right? There's something that has to be said about that, right? There's something that we have to talk about in that, right? That we have literally, if you look at your hip hop stars, I get it. Some of you think XX Extension is taken out by Drake or something like that, right? For those of you who are keeping up with the modern beef, right? I don't even know if that's modern anymore, but I think it's modern, right? Still, but and all that stuff. Some of you believe that. Some of you believe that that's what Drake did. Okay, and all those things or whatever, right? We don't talk about there was damage, right? And we just go, well, XX Extension, he was a nice guy, blah blah. Yeah, but look at how many persons he actually led to the slaughter. Or what about the guy? I don't even know. Is it Juice World? Juice World, and everybody says it's so sad that he passed, but he was so busy telling everybody it was all right to take recreational items, and he died because of that or whatever. We don't talk about that part of things. And by the way, these are young boys. They didn't even really make it to manhood. Definitely not up here. They didn't even live long enough, right, to mature. I'm not trying to speak ill of those who passed away. I'm trying to tell you that as a society, we have based so much stuff in it. Like we talk about Pac and Tupac Shakur are two different persons, by the way, if you really look at it, right? But Pac is somebody that we just give carte blanche to everything, and he did a lot of stuff that was damaging. Yes, he talked on a lot of different positive things, but he did a lot of damage in playing this character that ultimately ended up getting his life taken. Biggie Smalls wasn't doing anything to help your community like that. And his music has done a lot of damage, but we don't want to talk about that and be honest about it. We just go Biggie and Pop, greatest of all time. Why? Because these two persons got shot. We treat them like they were assassinated. For a lot of persons in hip hop, Biggie and Pac is like they're Malcolm X and they're Martin Luther King Jr. You know what I'm saying? And there's that's dangerous activity. I'm not saying Pac never said anything positive, but look at a lot of stuff that Pac did. On All Eyes on Me, on that album, right, the double album, that's really dangerous stuff that's on there. Is there a heaven for a G? Meaning that, hey, you can do whatever you want, you can offer whoever you want, and all that, but there's a specific place in heaven where we gonna see all our N-words over there. We gonna all them cats who was sliding on cats and we was riding on cats and all that, we gonna be able to do whatever we want and get in there. It's predestination. It's predestined. It's predestination came from racist rhetoric coming out of Protestantism and Roman Catholicism, saying it was okay whatever they did to slaves. They were predestined to go to hell no matter what, and y'all were predestined to go to heaven no matter what. So you might as well do whatever you want to do, right? It's the same mindset, right? And you guys will put them up above snitches. And I know it sounds sacrilegious. If I was talking, if young Kofi heard me talking about this the way that it is, I would listen, but at first I would feel so hurt and traumatized. If I was talking to myself when I was like 19, 20, I'd feel so hurt and traumatized right now. I would feel so hurt that I would dare say stuff. How you doing, springtime? That I would dare say something like this. Right, we want Barabbas, and we'll let Christ. You know what I'm saying? We could take Christ off the chopping block, but we like give us the murderer because we respect him, right? More than the snitch. The snitch, but we say Christ is the snitch. We would have said Christ was the snitch. Real talk. How you doing, Sister Tay? Real talk. We would have said Christ is the snitch, y'all. We would have said Christ is the snitch because he's telling you the truth and he's trying to protect you from certain things. How dare he or whatever. But Christ didn't do anything to try and, lift up racism, white supremacy. He didn't do anything to lift up Rome. He didn't do anything to lift up Greece. He said, if anything, if you want to come out of them, you got to be one of us. Right? But a lot of us would have said he is snitch. How dare he tell them the truth? Because that's how we're rigged. So number one on the list is you got to stop snitching. Stop snitching. All right, we're in the United Independent Compensatory Code /system/concept by Neely Fuller Jr. We're on page 49 today, starting on page 49. We just read number one. We're at number two now. Number two, stop name calling. This is basic, so it's going to sound very childlike. You'll be like, man, he treating us like children and blah, blah. Yes, ye little children. Yes, ye children of the Most High. We're going to talk to you like children because we're having some issues. Number two, stop name calling. Here's the reason and explanation. The name call is to call a person by any name other than the name that the person chooses to be called and or chooses to call him or herself. Right? Get out your straw man. Okay, watch this. Name calling is a simple but major act that promotes serious conflict between one person and another. Among black people, it oftentimes leads very quickly to fighting and killing. The result of name calling is never worth the grief that such practices promote. To avoid name calling a person, it is better to practice describing what it is that a person does or says. Did you catch that? Right? That seems simple, but there's so much stuff that happens in our diaspora, especially because we've had our names taken away, and all we have, right? All a person thinks that they have is their name, and a lot of times you're fighting over a name that's not even yours. Right? When you don't have much money, your name means a lot more. Right? How you doing, show? Right? When you don't have much money, your name is a whole lot. And when persons call you outside, so bare minimum, if this person wants to be called this, call them that. It'll cause you to have a lot less fighting. This is one of the reasons why it's interesting too that persons don't want to call Yahashua by his name. That's always interesting. Everybody wants to keep calling him something that he never would have called himself in a language that he never really spoke like that. I mean, he can speak it, but he didn't really speak like that when he was even speaking and writing and stuff, when he's talking to Israelites, right? Even though he did talk to some Greeks and stuff at times as well, so obviously he could go back and forth, but it's very interesting that like persons don't think about, but name calling, somebody calling you outside your name, it causes a lot. And this is something that once again seems like we're talking about something that's very childish, but let's be honest, we're talking about coming out of racism, white supremacy, and the victims of racism, white supremacy are usually very childish. There's usually something that's immature. There's something that has not had an opportunity to grow, to not be perfected. Right now, some of you who are the most buttoned up, dressed up, awesomely kind persons, let somebody call you the B word and see what happens. Right? To your face. With that hard buh sound. Just bam. Hit you with it. Yeah, with a little tender around those parts. Yeah. Let somebody hit you with that B word real quick. Male or female. And let them hit you with, you stupid. Right? Right? So we still have a little, it's difficult. There's a famous, well, if you know the Boondocks, right? How you doing, Norm? There's the Boondocks, and there's a famous scene, right? Talking about an N-word moment, and the two brothers hit each other, and he said, watch where you going, Nick. Said, what you say to me, Nick? Right? And it turns into a shootout, where they both miss each other, and then the police come and they don't miss, right? But then if you keep watching, what happens? If you try to do that N-word moment, right? This is not always 100% accurate, but we get it in our diaspora, right? We get the humor. A black person runs into a white person. Black person says, watch where you going. And the white person says, what did you? He says, wait a minute, I'm white. And he goes basically frolics down the street. And the guy's like, hey, what you doing? This is a moment to throw your life away. Right? But that's kind of how it is, right? But the white person doesn't get caught up when somebody calls them out their name. right? That's basically what they're trying to tell you is that in there they don't really do name calling like that, and if somebody does name, that's why they'll greet each other like that. Hey, what's up, you stupid mother? And they start laughing. Oh, you dumb bee, son of a bee. And you be like, dang, like, but because they didn't grow up around certain type of threatening things and stuff like that, it's not really a big deal because they have more of a sense of self. It's not as much, right? When somebody doesn't know where they come from and who they are, when you call them something outside of their name, that's a big deal. Matter of fact, if we go even deeper into that, a lot of us in our diaspora grew up feeling like even the names that we had, I didn't say everybody, praise you if you didn't have this feeling, but a lot of us who grew up felt like the names that we've been using our whole lives aren't even really stuff that like suits us. And then you come to find out why when you get older. Like, yeah, there's something in me that's different than this straw man that I was given. There's something in me that's different than what my parents might have thought. Matter of fact, you talk to your parents, and even they, who don't want you to necessarily change your name, but they'll tell you, yeah, I kind of felt the same way. Sometimes that conversation happens in our diaspora, right? But name calling is a big deal because in our diaspora, a lot of persons don't know who they really are, or all they have is this so-called name, right? The name that Massa gave you, or the way that you're supposed to speak, or what's on that stock and bond paper. You being the stock and there being a bond, you being a slave. That what you call a birth certificate. What's on there means a lot to you. It means a lot more sometimes than who you actually are. Matter of fact, it's the closest thing that a lot of us know to who we actually are. Right, even in our communities, it's not that far fetched in our communities to be like one doesn't know their parents, or one doesn't know their grandparents, one doesn't know their great grandparents, and then once you start talking about great grandparents, a lot of persons can't even tell you anything because it's not a big deal for us to be able to say we come from this to this to this to this to this, because for a lot of persons, because of racism, white supremacy that's happened over the last several hundred years, but especially focused within the last 500 to 600, there's a lot of things that you know it was supposed to be taken away where you come from, because you were never supposed to catch up with who you are. That's why many of us don't know the difference between a Negro and an African. A lot of you don't know the difference between a Negro and a black person. A lot of you don't know that a Negro was considered to be something different to the 1500s. A lot of you don't know that a Negro was supposed to be Yahudi or Yahudiyeh or Yahavada or Judah. A lot of you don't know about, Yahweh ben Yah or Yahweh Yah. Right now, Yahweh ben Yahweh, that's somebody new, but Yahweh Yah or Yahweh Yah, right? Who's actually somebody who's supposed to be another way of saying Yahachaman, right? A lot of persons don't know about these persons or even these names or these titles, right? A lot of persons don't know Elizabeth comes from Al Shabbat, Al Shabbat, right? Al Shabbat. So, right, which is two words, which is Al, short for El, like they say Elohim and El, right? That's where you get the E, but it's really Elah, what you guys call Eli, basically. So you have Eli on the first part, and then Shabbat at the end, Sabbath at the end, Elizabeth, Allah Shabbat, right? That's a name that many of us don't even recognize, right? Even Minister Elisheva, that's basically what her name is. It's a different dialect, but that's basically her name is Elizabeth, right? The two coming together. And we don't know these things. And we've been called out of our name so much that, a name is a huge thing. It's what they call in the Greeks, the subconscious. Right? You guys talk about that a lot. The subconscious mind. You have the conscious mind, which you guys are basically saying is the forethought. And then you guys say you have a subconscious, the one that keeps on moving over and over again. We would usually just talk about even the carnal, or at least the physical mind, right? And then through the soul, you would deal with then the spirit that never sleeps. That's how we would describe it. But a lot of persons will talk about the conscious and the subconscious, right? Hello, royal greetings to you. So a lot of you are talking about conscious and subconscious from a Greco-Roman perspective. Okay, so from that perspective, you think about it as there's certain things that are on the forefront and active, but then there's things that are really active, but they kind of are slumbering, in other words, but they go 24/7. So when you turn this brain off, there's still the lower brain, so to speak, that's always going. That's how a lot of you like to think about that, right? That's the way that we've been taught. But we don't recognize that a lot of us are dealing with stuff in that so-called subconscious, where the name right? Your name, your true identity, your true thought process, even your diaspora, where you come from, your nation, etc. That stuff is in DNA memory. That stuff is ingrained in you. You can't help it, and so it's even in your spirit, even though you've been cut off from it, right? It used to be, what is it? Your That's why you have to remember. You were a member of it. You were conscious of it. It was there before. It's sitting there in that so-called subconscious, and then all of a sudden these things were cut from you, right? So now that they're cut from you, you don't have that stuff resonating, right? You're missing something that's resonating, or at least it's not. It doesn't get brought to your so-called conscious that often. So you have to remember. It was dismembered. You were dismembered from it. Now we want to remember you, bring you back to the body, and you're going through physical therapy so that that thing that was cut off. You're going through spiritual therapy even, so that thing that was cut off can now be something that you used to using and working again. And so you're coming up and with authority, with names and stuff like that again. So name calling for us, it's a whole lot extra in there. Other cultures can name call and get over it. In your culture, you don't name call like that. Right? You don't name call it like that. Somebody like that, you know. If you call somebody, yo, what's up, you SOB? Right? We don't play like that because we are missing something that important. Okay, let's keep going. So here's an example, according to the book. An example. It says, instead of calling a person a liar, repeat what is that the person said and say that what was said was not true. Then explain why. Always explain why. Instead of calling a person a racist, describe what it is that the person says or does that is characteristic of a racist. Say that it is the type of thing that a racist says or does. Do not, however, call the person a racist. Right? It is also important to know and understand what to not do when a person calls you a name. Do not say, oh, see, this is when a lot of y'all are going to hear this. Do not say anything. Do not fight. Do not kill. That one for sure, right? Now, that if you notice, in other words, you're gonna get more bees with honey than you are with the S word. Right? That's how that saying goes, right? You're gonna get more bees by giving them honey. Bees like honey. You're gonna get more bees by showing them pollen instead of shoveling, you know, stuff that comes fecal matter in a pile and thinking that bees are coming to swarm that. Right? You have to recognize very quickly that a lot of persons are not hearing what you have to say because you're so busy being accusatory and name calling. Now we know that name means authority. So if you're calling, and what does the word call mean? Call means to invite. So if you're name calling, you would be inviting somebody to an authority. That person has a right to say, I'm not going to respond to that. I'm not going to accept that. Right? A lot of persons don't catch that. Right? If you're name calling, a lot of persons have every right to be like, I'm not going to accept that. You're calling me something that I'm not. I'm not going to accept that call. Just because you invited me to that doesn't mean I have to accept it. And some persons will not just say that I'm not going to accept it. Some persons will throw hands with you and let you know with them hands, like, don't invite me to that. Don't call me that. Right? You inviting me to that is something that is harmful to my psyche, and so they'll fight you because they're going to protect their psychology. Right? Now, and everybody has the right to do it. Right? Now, once again, I'm not saying you can't use the word racist. The book's not saying you can't use the word racist. But this is why you hear me guys say stuff in a certain way all the time. I'll say, hey, you sound like a racist. Or if you have a problem with me saying, like, what was it yesterday? If you have a problem with me mentioning the word white, and I'm talking about white racism, white supremacy, and I'm using that word, if you can't handle the fact I'm using that word, something might be wrong. We might need to go ahead and dive into that and you start hearing me describe why and this, right? It's somebody will hear you, even if they don't hear you, even if they decide not to hear you. Usually, you'll be heard more when you use that type of mindset, that type of conversation. You said kind of used to be you quick to throw hands when you disrespected. Yeah. And there will be somebody who will disrespect you. This is why even when persons be saying, well, I'm going to say this and I'm going to use this word and what y'all going to do? I have a right of freedom of speech. Yeah, you have a freedom of speech. You have a right to freedom of speech. Just be ready. Somebody got a right to throw hands. and you're not always gonna win. I know in your mind you ain't never lost. But I promise you, there's somebody out there. There's a situation out there. Even if you're a better fighter, all it takes is somebody to get you in a manner that you weren't ready to defend yourself. How you doing, Blue Shish? Right? There's a lot of stuff, right? That there's a lot of ways that somebody can get you on stuff. So never think that you are above and beyond to the point to where you can treat somebody or mistreat somebody however you feel at all times. Right? How you doing, Mitchell? Never get to that place. How you doing, Twig? Never get to a place. How you doing, Brother Craig? How you doing, Minister Selecta Keita? I'm sorry I missed you. How you doing, Brother Dwayne? Missed you too. Sorry about that. Right? Never get to a place where you believe that you should just be able to say whatever and nobody should say anything back. Give and it shall be given unto thee. Elohim's measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. You only think about that with the positive, but you want to give out some stuff or whatever, somebody will give you something. You want to do, well, I'm gonna just say the truth no matter what. Yeah, say the truth, right? But make sure that your words are seasoned. I mean, heck, since we're talking about racism, white supremacy, and we say everything, I mean, you make them sure your words are seasoned. Y'all don't like unseasoned stuff. Why are you gonna tell everybody else that they're supposed to take your stuff without any seasoning? You're famously quoted as talking all the time about how your stuff needs to be seasoned before you eat it, where you trying to feed them truth, but it has no seasoning. You're supposed to be the salt. You're supposed to make sure that the food has savor. Excuse me. The food's supposed to be savory, and you ain't got you teaching and preaching and telling everybody all this stuff, and your food not savory. Your teachings aren't savory. I say this all the time. I got mad love and respect for our Hebrew brethren that be out on the street corners and they be preaching and preaching and preaching truth. But it's hard to hear you when every word out your mouth is the N-word. It's hard to hear you whenever you talk about a woman. Every time you talk about it, you call her a word that rhymes with blunt. And yet you're telling her that you're trying to preach to her how to become the best version of herself. She's not going to hear you, bro. It's hard for me to respect you when you're talking about how our diaspora needs to come together, but you always disrespect our women. Where's your seasoning at? Right? Non-seasoned, bland message that everybody's supposed to eat it. Doesn't make sense. All right, number 3 on the list. Number 1 was stop snitching. Number 2, stop name calling. Number 3 on the list is what? Stop cursing. Stop cussing. Uh-oh. Now cursing. Now we got to figure out what does cursing mean. We're building up the code, right? So what does it mean to curse? Stop cussing. Stop cursing. To curse people is to use profanity toward them. Oh, yeah. I know some of y'all definitely don't want to hear that. To curse people is to use profanity toward them in a manner that is likely to be thought of as insulting or demeaning. This often results in the promotion of hostility. The hostility promoted oftentimes serves no constructive purpose. The use of curse words oftentimes promotes name calling, discourtesy, and unnecessary fighting and or killing. It sounds like we're just taking baby steps because guess what? In our diaspora, unfortunately, we got to take some baby steps. How you doing, Sleep? Right? This is stuff that persons don't realize. Look, first of all, to curse anybody, just look at the word usage. Look at the etymology. Why would you curse anybody? And if you curse somebody, give a curse, and it shall be given unto thee. Why would you curse? Why would you curse yourself? Matter of fact, anytime that I speak something, I try to be very careful about what I speak, because what I speak over others, who do you think is the first person that it affects? If I speak something, even if you're speaking something negative over your own child, I pray that you do not. However, even if you're cursing speaking over your own child, you ain't gonna be nothing, you and your father, blah, blah. Yeah, the first person that it affects is you. Because guess what? The first person that has to hear it is you. You keep forgetting that you're an eternal creature. Before it comes out your mouth, it was already heard, felt in your body. And halfway through the sentence, you must recognize that halfway through your sentence of cursing somebody, you in the past, right? You're an eternal being. You in the past have already cursed yourself. You've already heard it. It's already resonated here. It's already resonated here. Out of the abundance of the heart doth the mouth speak. You shout it out, and now you're cursing your future on top of that. So what you have in the present is affecting your past and your future simultaneously. You're so busy doing that. So you have to be careful. Even when it's biblical to curse somebody. Yeah, to wish to do some bad stuff to, yeah. Right? So even if it's biblical, even if I'm saying I curse you, you got to even know to make sure that if you say that I curse you, Atsham Yahweh, you got to make sure it's exactly the way he wants, and therefore the curse is not coming towards you and you are protected. You have to be careful, even in your cursing. If you speak death over something, it's important to speak death over certain things. You should speak death over certain things in your life. I speak death over certain usage of certain recreational things. I speak death over my diaspora coming against each other. I speak death over the snitching against each other to go ahead and uphold racism, white supremacy. I speak death over persons using the name that means half man, half Zeus. You can speak death over things. Speak death and life, right? Those that love it will eat the fruit thereof. You got to speak death and life. The power of death and life is in the tongue. Right, but you got to be careful too how you're using stuff, because some of you are speaking death over a lot of stuff that you do not mean to, because you're not willing to phrase your sentences and your words together. This is why we teach don't get into spelling, right? Spelling words. Why? Because we don't use spells. We're not casting spells upon anybody. That's somebody else's culture. We do not cast spells, but we use character. Somebody said that doesn't matter. No, it matters. It matters. That's why I'm very quick when somebody's talking about romantic and romanticism and yada yada. I'm like, no, I'm not romantic. I'm not into Roman antics, right? I don't want, because a lot of persons couldn't afford to have candles, and therefore they might eat in the dark, and maybe they could afford one candle. And how romantic is that? No, I don't need one candle. I don't need it to be dark. I want to be able to see what I eat. I like to have I like to see exactly what's on my food. I want to make sure if there's something in my food that shouldn't be there. Right? That's not part of what I am. So that's not romantic. I'm not trying to romantically eat. That's not on my menu. It's to always be romantic when I eat. We use terms, we don't know what they are. I'm not trying to have what is that? Not Socrates. I'm missing the word. Not Socratic, which is something else. What is it? The something relationships that y'all have. What is that one? We talked about it before. I'm not trying to have certain. What is that? Not when a boy, when a man and a woman are supposed to be friends, but they're not supposed to be attracted to each other. Whatever that is. I forget that. Somebody help me. Somebody help me. Platonic. Thank you. I'm not trying to have platonic or platonic relationships, because Plato said that the worst relationship one could have was between a man, a husband, and a wife. He believed the best relationship that one could have would be between a male in his 40s and a boy that he's mentoring, right? He's the mentor, and the mentee is about 10 to 12 years old. I don't want a platonic relationship. I don't speak that over myself. I don't, right? I don't have friends like that, right? I'm not saying we can't be friends. I'm not saying we can't be brother and sister. Hear what I'm saying? I don't have friends in that manner, because I am somebody who's attracted to the opposite sex. And so as one who's attracted to females, there's certain things that I don't do and I won't do and I won't be around. No shade to any of y'all, right? But I'm saying there's just certain things that I won't do as your brother. Look, I got a sister, and my sister and I don't do some of the stuff that y'all swear that brothers and sisters are supposed to do. I got a blood sister, and I don't do some of the stuff that y'all be saying. But it's because y'all so busy talking about platonic relationships, acting like their culture, where they're not even attracted to you like that, other than you having their babies and that's it. That's supposed to somehow translate different to you when you speak it over yourself and you try to live it. We're not in that. We're not in that. You need to know better. Thank you, Tiana, and how you doing? We need to know better than that. How you doing, Lady Drama? You see what I'm saying? Like some of y'all, oh, that's just my brother, and we do them blah. So you and your brother go. I've never gone to the club with my sister. That's just my brother, blah, blah. I've never hung out. I know some brothers and sisters are different, right? Y'all built different, right? But it's rare. Brothers and sisters don't get along, just like brothers and brothers don't get along, and sisters don't get along, right? Like my sister, if something happened with my sister right now, I will cross over all types of earth and rocks and jagged edges and all types of stuff to get to her and make sure she's safe. Don't get it twisted. But my sister and I ain't just her husband and her and my wife and I just like going around all day every day. But y'all like, oh no, we go here, we go shopping together. About sound like y'all dating, right? And a lot of sisters don't realize, y'all, it's easier for you guys to keep persons in the friend zone. And some of y'all know what y'all doing in that friend zone. You just not as attracted to him as the one you with. But you know what you using him for. Some of y'all don't, right? It's okay. But some of y'all know what I'm talking about. But like, brothers be in the friend zone and they be hoping that one day you'll break open, right, glass in case of emergency. When everything goes wrong, he's hoping, and he'll do it because he's in love with you, low key. He'll do it, or even he's in lust with you. Some cats, some men are crazy like that. Some men will follow you around for 20 years, hoping that one day they'll have marriages and still be following you around all day, hoping one day they can smash, as the world says. Real talk. There's some men. I'm sorry if I'm giving away the game, fellas, but it's the truth. There's some men, and y'all be sitting up there. Oh no, he just. I'm telling you, right? If I love you, I'll tell you the truth, right? I'm sorry. How you doing, Sister Carla? How you doing, Basil? Right? If I love you, I'll tell you the truth, right? I just want to tell you the truth. There's some brothers who will follow you and follow you and follow you and follow you, and they married and everything, right? And my sister and I don't be having these relationships. When everybody say that's my brother, that's my sister, I'll be like, I don't know where y'all get this from. There's certain things brothers and sisters don't do. And I hug my sisters. Y'all be hugging y'all sister and y'all brother in certain ways. I'm like, that ain't no brother sister stuff I haven't seen. But y'all into some stuff that's not of your culture. Anyways, let's get back. Right? I'm just trying to tell somebody. I'm trying to warn somebody, sisters. You can believe it or not. You can be with it or not. I'm just trying to tell you the truth now. All right. So number 3 is stop cursing. Number 4, this is another one. Like I said, it seemed like he's talking to children, but he's telling you that he's trying to tell you the truth. Where we are, right? We got to be honest. Here we go. Number 4, stop gossiping. Right? To gossip, this is what gossip means in code, right? To gossip about a person is to say something about that person to someone other than that person that you would not be willing to say directly to that person. At the same time and place with those other persons listening. Huh? Can we say that again? To gossip about a person is to say something about that person to someone other than that person that you would not be willing to say directly to that person at the same time and place with those other persons listening. See, we got to get the code right. So somebody be like, oh, well, I can tell the truth. Yeah, you can tell the truth about somebody and still gossip. You ain't never thought about that before, have you? Yeah, you can tell the truth about somebody and still gossip. Because gossiping is not lying. Right? If you lie, you lie. We just say you are lying. Or as we learned today, we might need to tell the person why they are coming off as a liar. And why what they are doing is considered to be lying, right? Without calling them a liar, right? But yeah, you can be a person that tells the truth but still be gossiping. Why? Because gossiping is not whether you are telling the truth or not. Gossiping is would you be willing to say to me with that person standing there? Would you be willing to say to me what you are saying behind my back? And once again, not just are you willing to say to me what's behind my back, but are you willing to say to me what you're willing to say behind my back with that person still standing there? Would you say the same thing? Now, this is where it gets twisted. So it's not necessarily lying, but would you say to me what you'll say to me behind my back? And would you say the same way if that person that you gossiping to, would you say it the same way you would say it to me? These seem, once again, like basic childhood things, but this is real talk. We're still dealing with this stuff where we gossip. We as a people, we as a diaspora. This is, look, whether you want to talk about the white man did blah, blah, because we're separated, da, da, da. Hey, I hear you on all those fronts. I'm catching it. I'm with you. I'm picking up what you're throwing down. That being said, though, this is stuff that we can control within ourselves. And by the way, one of the reasons you have to make sure that you don't do this is because if you'll do it with each other, and if you look up to those who are in racism, white supremacy higher than you are, if you'll do it with each other, you'll do it with them. And I'm not even talking about as from the perspective which it is bad to do it to them. I'm talking about you'll go to them and it's easy if you do it to each other because you look at each other wrong. Then it's easy when somebody says, "I'll give you more of a job," if you start gossiping about them, if you make yourselves look bad, right? If you're willing to be the token, say it to your face. Yeah. Well, even if you don't say it to my face, I'm not one that really care, and I'm with you on that. But I don't even care if you say it to my face. Say it to my. If you're gonna say it, if you're not gonna say it to my face, treat the conversation and the situation as if I'm right there. You hear what I'm saying? Like treat the situation as if I'm right there in the room. That's all I ask. Like if I'm gonna talk to anybody about my wife, I'm gonna talk to anybody about my wife as if my wife is standing right there. That way, I'm not gonna gossip. So if there's certain things that my wife wouldn't want me to say, if there's certain things that she doesn't want me to teach, if there's certain things that she doesn't want me to reveal, if there's certain things that ain't your business, then I'm gonna talk to you as if she's right there, right? And I would hope that I get the same, and I am confident that I do, right? Talk about me as if I'm right there, right? Even if you tearing me up, fine, tearing me up, tearing me down, talking he ain't this, blah blah. Fine, as long as you're willing to say that in front of me, say it behind my back. Now, really, there's levels to that. I hope you guys know what those levels are, right? There's levels to that. But so I'm just saying, say it as if I'm right there. If you got a problem with Pastor Kobe, look, I'm being honest with you. I don't got no problem with you having a problem with me. What I have a problem with is when you can't talk to me, right? And this has happened before in SOC's past. I ain't bringing up names and who did what, so you don't need to. If you wait for me to tell on somebody, that's something I don't do either, right? But we've had problems before at SOC where persons talk trash, and I don't know why persons don't think stuff gets back to me. And some of y'all be like, "Man, Pastor Kofi, do you know so and so saying and blah blah?" And they be getting there, and I'll tell y'all straight up. I'll be like, "Yeah, I know." And you're like, "Well, what you gonna do about it?" If what I say, if Holy Ghost tells me, we'll reveal it. If not, the way this works is that untruth is always going to be revealed anyways, and persons are going to end up peeling off. And if somebody's trying, some persons have even tried to see if they could tear up what we're doing and try to take over or something like that. There's weird stuff that happens when you're doing stuff like we're doing, especially when you're trying to nation build. That's stuff that comes with the territory. And I'll tell persons like, hey, if they're not willing to say what they're saying to me, then it's going to fall apart, because we're going to set up a society and a community and a nation to where we're not tripping off that. Like if like if I have a problem, we don't have no problem, sis, but I'm gonna use somebody who I know she don't mind me talking like this. If Dr. T and I got a problem, right? If I got a problem, even if I got a problem with something she preaches something, let's just take it to a high level. Why act like we let's do something that everybody can comprehend pretty easily without us having to act like whatever. Let's say she preached something and it's problematic. If I have a problem, I would come to her and be like, "Hey, what you talking about?" But also too, because we have a dynamic to where we don't talk different behind each other's back than what we do in front of each other's back. Guess what I would do? Guess what I would say? I could literally, because she's already told us to y'all. She's like, correct me and correct me publicly. So if she say something and I got a problem, and I wouldn't even say Dr. T's teaching blah blah. Just when Holy Ghost leads me to, I'll just preach and teach, and I'll just say what it is that's the truth. It's corrected. She ain't got a problem with it. If she does, she'll come to me and talk to me. If she thinks that I did it publicly or whatever, but we ain't never had no problem, right? That's how it should be, right? That eliminates gossiping. Gossiping is if I have a problem with Dr. T, and I wouldn't say to her what I would say to her, you know, I would if I talk to I don't know who's somebody else that I can talk to, and y'all ain't got no problem with me talking about Minister Tamara. I would have talked to Minister Tamara and be like, "Minister Tamara, can you believe Dr. T? How dare she? You think she? Who does she think she is? Blah blah, this and that or whatever." No, I'm not gonna talk like that. And this is what Minister Tamara should do if I talk like that, whether I'm pastor or not. Pastor, if you know, did you talk to her? All right, is it okay if I say this to her? Because if you're gonna say something to me that you're not willing to say to her, that's gossip, and I ain't got no time for it. Click. Or well, back in the day now. Whoop. right, right. But I'm just saying, it should be. That's how it should work. So I don't really trip off. So when persons come, oh, so and so and that, really, if I'm not in a place where I would address it publicly, and that's only if Holy Ghost says, or if I'm not in a place where I'm led to go to the person, I'm like, look, y'all's gonna take care of that. I don't even have to gossip. I don't even have to gossip. That's right. Why even entertain it? This ain't Gladiator. I'm not trying to entertain. You know, like it is what it is. Like let that spirit do what it is. And what's happened in the past is it's been squashed on its own, it's calmed down, or persons have just left. Persons have just left. And so, that gossiping, that gossiping type spirit that it's really a lot. It's almost, I wouldn't say biblically it's the same, but it's almost on the same level as witchcraft. Right? Like if you're not willing to say something about me to me, and you wouldn't speak to me, right? If as long I'll just go back to what I said, and then let's keep moving. Is if you'll speak a word about me, and I'm not coming at anybody, I'm not threatening anybody, I'm just being honest. As long as you are speaking about me as if I'm right there, say whatever you want about me. Right? But if you talk to me on the phone and you can't say to me what you're saying to somebody else, that's what gossiping is. Okay? That's what gossiping is. So I have no problem with somebody saying, Pastor Kofi, this and that, he terrible. Yeah, just speak of me as if you would speak to me in my face. This is why a lot of stuff, even with social media, it makes heroes of cowards, right? You should recognize that it makes heroes of cowards, because a lot of persons who, in their cowardice, would say something behind the screen would never say it to your face. That's one thing that helps me to go ahead and just be like, man, this person, that in of itself, as far as the code we're putting across, that amongst itself is cowardice, right? Would you say slander and manipulation are forms of witchcraft? Mm-hmm. Is it a trans bear fetus? Okay, how you doing? Right. So a lot of persons would not address something with you that they wouldn't address. If you'll talk stuff about me, talk about me as if I'm right there. If you can't do that, right, then you're actually a coward, and you're a problem when it comes to racism, white supremacy, right? If you can't say it while I'm there, then you're gossiping and you're hurting your people. You're not helping. Okay. Gossip promotes confusion and unnecessary suspicion. It serves no constructive purpose. All right. We're going to go into the next page now. We're going to go into number 5. So number 1 was what? Number 1 was stop snitching. Number 2 was stop name calling. Number 3, oh man, hold on. Number 3 was stop cursing. Number 4 is stop gossiping. Okay. And now we're on page 51. Number 5, stop being discourteous. Like I said, this seems like it's child stuff, but it's real talk for us. We need to get back to this. We need to get back to the basics. That's why it says 10 basic things that must stop. Stop being discourteous. To be discourteous is to say or do something that shows a lack of consideration for what a person is doing or saying, or trying to do or say. To promote knowledge or understanding of his or her thought, speech, or actions. To be discourteous means to not allow a person to reveal and or to explain his or her intentions. It means for a person to speak and or act as he or she chooses, with little or no regard to how others will be affected. Excuse me. Discourtesy often breeds hostility and or confusion. Discourteous speech and or action often promotes name calling, cursing, fighting, and or killing. Excuse me. That's a lot in that little bit for number 5. Stop being discourteous. Right? Stop being discourteous. So number 1, stop snitching. Number 2, stop name calling. Number 3, stop cursing. Number 4, stop gossiping. Number 5, stop being discourteous. Right? Stop being discourteous. How you doing, Minister Select Rounds? You're being discourteous. And once again, what is being discourteous? It is it is basically saying or doing something that shows lack of consideration for what a person is doing or saying. Right? That's really what being discourteous is. Right? What is courtesy? If I were to give somebody courtesy, common courtesy, whatever. If I were to give you the courtesy of, you might be in an argument. You might say, "Man, I wish you would just give me the courtesy of hearing what I have to say." In other words, if you're being discourteous, you're not listening to what I have to say. You're speaking and just trying to speak over me. You don't care. You will not give me the courtesy. Even your silence can be courteous, right? Or even if we would pronounce it more correctly, it might even be courteous, right? If you belong in my court, I treat you different than if you don't belong in my court. See, we're talking about diaspora, right? Courteous. Maybe you never heard it pronounced properly, right? But if you believe that court is supposed to be, now it's technically not, it should be court, right? Which is actually closer to the original. But if you're going to say court, court, then if it's courteous, then courteous means that I should make sure that I treat you as if you're in my court. If you are in a courtroom, you're supposed to be treated different by being in that court. The judge almost represents the judge, right, wearing his robe, right? His the judge is wearing his white robe, right? He's wearing his robe. He's wearing his priestly robe. His white up here, the black out there, right? The reverse collar, all that stuff. So he's wearing his priestly robe. She's wearing her priestly robe. So they're supposed to represent the king. And when you come into the courtroom, you're supposed to represent the king's court. You are in the king's court. If you're brought before him, even to be judged, you have to come into his court. Into his courts with thanksgiving. I'm sorry, with praise, rather. You got into his gates, thanksgiving. You had to fast from some things to be allowed entry into his gates. But when you come into his court now, his court, you're supposed to give praise. Your honor. Yes, your honor. I see why you're saying that. No, your honor, I am not so and so. I am here to represent so and so on their behalf. Because that is a straw man, it is not myself, right? Court. How you doing, Bradley? How you doing, Brother Allen? Right? This is court. You see what I'm saying? So if you are courteous, it's supposed to be that I'm recognizing that you and I, we in the same situation. You see that? Okay. Well, I'll tell you like this then, because okay, is it Fodiso? This is the wrong. This is okay. I apologize. So this is what I asked of you. I apologize, everybody. See, this is when I try to do stuff. We try to be courteous. I'm not going to curse. I'm going to make sure, right? I'm not going to call you a liar, but what you're doing is coming across as lying. And this is why I would say that. You contacted me and you called me. You keep coming up on the stuff. I told you not to do so, right? I reached out to you. I tried to call you a couple of times or whatever. I said that I needed information to be able to send something to you. Now, you've been saying that you need help with this, that, or whatever. You're in a whole nother country. I don't know how it goes. You're asking for $500 worth US worth of stuff. And I said that I would try my best when I was able to try and get to a place, because I would have to send it to you differently. I told you if I'm going to send something to you through MoneyGram, you now are asking me to send it through PayPal, which I said I can't send it through. You asked me to send it through or at first it was MoneyGram. I said, okay, I'm going to need you to send information. I did take more than a couple hours to get back to you, but I think in 2.5 hours, I did say, hey, I need information from you regarding stuff so I can send it to you. You didn't send me the place. You didn't send me the city. You didn't send me any of those things, right? So I understand that you're in a bad place. And as I said yesterday, I'm still going to try and send you the money, but you're trying to do stuff to where now it's send it PayPal, send it this. No, I can't send it PayPal. I need to send it through MoneyGram. That's the only way, right? You can't do Cash App where you are. You're going to have to send me the information that I asked for. And then after that, once it's sent, right? If you don't want it sent anymore, which I guess you're making it clear, I'll just make sure that it's blocked and you don't have to worry about it anymore, right? But to come on here and to do things and to try to force somebody into something. So I don't know if you're lying or not, but once again, you're not following instructions the way I'm asking. and you're trying to interrupt a whole different live session or whatever on multiple channels, going from place to place to place. If you need the stuff or whatever, I can try to give it to you. But once again, I said that I'm going to need to know at least the city, the information that they need for MoneyGram. So I'm going to try my best to leave it there, but you're going to be blocked on certain platforms. If you'd like to reach out to me through Messenger, right? And I'm not going to call and talk to you on the phone at this point. I'm just right because we already had that conversation. I tried to even video call you. The reason I tried to video call you is because I was trying to see what your situation actually was, so that I can go ahead and see what's necessary. Right? I don't know what's going on. I'm going on faith off of your word. When you treat it like this, though, it shows me that I probably shouldn't go off faith in that. Now I can comprehend that you're going to do something, right? And you're listening to me on multiple platforms. So even if the moderators are taking you off, I know you're hearing me somewhere. But I'm gonna make it a point to say, once again, we were literally just talking about gossip, right? If you're gonna do something and you're gonna treat me a certain way, or if you're gonna lie about certain things, and even if you say it's snitching, and if your mind you think it's not snitching, you think you're telling the truth, I need you to make sure, because I've got all my ducks in a row. I've got all our conversations recorded. I've got all our stuff together where somebody can look at it. All right. You're not going to come on here and say you wish you could help, blah, blah. You need to make sure that if you're going to do the stuff, you do what's asked, especially if you're in a whole other country where we don't have any ministerial staff to verify what it is that you're asking for. Okay? So because of that, you can go ahead. I don't know if you're on still or not, but wherever you are, you're going to be at least blocked for today. And I will try to reach out to you as best as my schedule allows. But I need you to do what was asked of you, which is send the information that's needed for MoneyGram, and then not tell me, okay, now that the MoneyGram thing and I actually need actual information from you, now all of a sudden change it into something to where I don't need the information from you. All right. Sorry about that, y'all, but you know, this is an example of what it is again. You've been coming up on live sessions for how many days in a row now? And I've just been, okay, I've talked, I've called, I told you certain things that I needed. And if you're not going to be listening to it, it is what it is. All right. I'm going to try to turn it off now and let's go back to what we were doing. But that's a wild thing to do. That's a wild thing to do. I'm just saying, that's a wild thing to do. Okay. Right. That's a very wild place to go. Just on there, and on top of that, then to lie, right? To be like, oh, if you didn't want to help, blah blah, whatever, and I've asked you certain things, and then you try to change something and stuff like that. So I got you. Don't worry about it. You'll be blocked on different platforms as soon as I get the opportunity to. I promise you. Right? I promise you, I got you. I'm making sure I take care of it now, and I'll see as my schedule allows. Right? I'll see if I can get back. I'm sorry, everybody else. It is what it is. I got to handle this real quick the way that it is. Oh, no. Sorry. Sorry, y'all. I gotta figure this out. Wait a minute. I'm having an issue here. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Muted accounts. You can go ahead and okay. Alrighty. And if we do deal with that person, I'm gonna have to have somebody else probably deal with them or whatever. No shade. Even if that person can hear me, I know you can on certain platforms. Even if you can still hear me, no shade towards you. That's just, I mean, that's well. Anyways, praise y'all. Alrighty, praise y'all. So, let's see. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and she might be scamming. But I still was gonna be, I was gonna give her a tenth of what it is because we ain't really got. I was gonna come out my pocket. SOC really ain't got the stuff for her right now, to be honest. And so I was gonna try and do it on my own. when I have a chance to. You know, I got a whole family and I got stuff that's going on. So, but I needed her to send me certain things. When she wouldn't send me the certain things, all of a sudden it became, oh, well, now you can send it through the other way, this and that. Ways I told her that I can't send it. If anybody, by the way, anybody ever needs us to send something, PayPal doesn't work for me as far as sending. For whatever reason, I'm able to receive stuff. If I have, if and it's not even mine, right? But like, let's just say if I or if SOC, right, has money in PayPal, then I can take whatever's in PayPal and send it. But if we have to take that PayPal money and send it to somewhere else to another account, which usually for legal purposes we do, then I can't send anything through PayPal. It's not set up for me to be able to use like a personal account like anybody else does. It's SOC's account. So I told her we couldn't send anything to her that way. So anyways, it is what it is, right? But where are we at now? Back to the lesson. I'm not gonna go through that because now it'll become bashing somebody. I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that at all. I promise you I don't. Right? And if it came across as that, yeah, I ask for your forgiveness. And I ask you all for your forgiveness. I really don't. I promise you that's not my mindset. But being discourteous, that's where we were. Right? That's where we were. So being discourteous. Right? Being discourteous is what? Once again, is to say or do something that shows a lack of consideration for what a person is doing or saying or trying to do or say to promote knowledge or understanding of his or her thought, speech, or actions. So somebody's trying to get something across and you're being discourteous. I say this all the time. I love when Holy Spirit actually gives us an example. We just had a real life example of discourtesy, right? But that's what we were talking about, is being discourteous, right? Like here we are trying to gain knowledge, do certain things, trying to talk about building a diaspora, right? So if somebody's trying to do that, it's discourteous. It shows that this person is not in your court, as we were saying. That's what we were talking about, being in one's court, right? It shows that you're not in someone's court, or you don't think that they are in the court that they belong in. Discourteous. If somebody's in your court, they're treated a certain way. If you're in a court, if you're in a king's court, if you're, how you doing, Sister Sheila? If you're in a king's court, if you're in a queen's court, if you're in the court of law, if you're in a judge's court, whatever the case, right? If you're courting someone, there's rules, there's regulations, there's laws that you are to follow because you're in the same court. And when you start to do something right, that's why the judge, even if the judge is wrong, you still honor the judge because he's over the court. And if you dishonor the judge, even if you're correct in calling out the judge for what the judge does, guess what the judge has the right to do? He has the right to hold you in contempt. Right? He has the right to hold you in contempt. That's what he has the right to do. Because you're in his court, right? So you're being discourteous. He has the right to kick you out. How you doing, Kobe? Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. You see, so you're in his court. Being in his court, there are certain principles, there's certain statutes, right? And if we are discourteous, what we're saying is we don't even care about the laws, regulations, statutes for one another, right? How you doing, Sister Alyssa? When we are in his court, right, there's a way that we're supposed to do things. When we're in the kingdom court, right, a king's dominion, a king's court, we're supposed to make sure that what? That we ensure that there are certain rules and regulations no matter what. This is why even if we disagree, there's rules on how you disagree in court. If you had an alt with your brother or your sister, come to him. Right? Et cetera, right? If that doesn't work, then find somebody that you both can have mediate, right? And then if that doesn't work, we might have to get to the place to where everybody has to know what's going on. But there's rules and regulations concerning the court. Right? So we have to be careful. So we should not be discourteous or discourteous one to another. Amen. Let's go ahead and move on from that. We're going to go ahead and go to the next one. So we'll go ahead and move on from that one. We're going to go to the next one. Let's see. Number 6. We're on page 51. We're on number 6 now. Stop stealing. Number 6. Number 6 is what? Stop stealing. Something we don't talk about a lot either. But once again, when you're used to getting scraps, you take from each other, right? When you're used to being Deuteronomy 28, right, verses 15 through 68, you start taking from one another, right? Stop stealing. What is it to steal? To steal from any person or for any reason is to promote injustice. To steal, even to survive, is to promote injustice. And I know that we make an excuse for it. And by the way, I get it. I was somebody who went at their lowest, right? Stole. Might have stole a bag of chips or something, but hey, you can't eat and you don't have any money, blah, blah. You're on the street. What you gonna do? You steal. I get the reason. That's probably the only thing that I've ever really, well, I can't say that. I mean, I've probably stolen other things, but for the most, actually, no, I take that back. I've stolen quite a bit more than a bag of chips. Let me not act like I'm so super spiritual in that regard, right? I've stolen quite a bit, but when I was homeless, at least, right, I would go into a lot of places, and the only thing I did a couple of times was I steal a bag of chips. Feel like you're starving. Now, I probably could have waited, but still, you steal. But even to do that is to promote injustice, right? To steal, even from one who has stolen from you, is to promote injustice. That's why if somebody steals, right? If somebody steals from you, to be like, I'm gonna steal back, right? It's not proper, right? You don't fight hate with hate. Somebody hates me, so I'm gonna hate them. Right? Okay, watch this. To steal even from an enemy is to promote injustice. This is why the Bible says y'all's gonna give back what's yours. It doesn't say that you're gonna steal it. This is what they're afraid of, because in racism, white supremacy, they steal, they appropriate, they take things from persons. But you're not going to do that, because that's not who you are. That's not what our culture is. That's not what we subscribe to. That's not what we prescribe to make it through life. Right? We don't subscribe to that at all. Right? We're not a thief. The enemy is a thief. You are not. All right, watch this. To steal even from a so-called racist or a racist is to promote injustice. Well, they stole from us, we're gonna steal from them. See, you're promoting injustice. You're trying to have a system that is anti-racism, white supremacy. You can't just take racism, white supremacy, do the same thing that they do in racism, white supremacy, and then call it a new thing. No. You just put a black face on an old problem. Right? It's like when you go to your HBCUs, we talk about that all the time. HBCUs are not started by black folk. But in your mind, it's got to be a black college, because you just put a black face on the same training. They giving you the same training, teaching you the same stuff, denying you knowledge of the same stuff. But in your mind, because there's a black face around the statue that's a white person, you think it's black. Right? Vengeance is Yahweh's. Exactly. So we're not. So you got to be very careful with this stuff. Where a lot of us are out here trying to say we're going to take this or whatever, but we got to stop stealing. Stop stealing and stop making excuses to keep on stealing. Stop making excuses to say it's okay. You stop saying, "Oh, bro, you know what? These persons, it's the same mindset. Somebody they murdered my family member, so I'm gonna murder them or whatever. It's an eye for an eye." But even in so-called Old Testament situations, if somebody murdered your family member, they still had a right to try and get to a certain place to cleanse themselves before you laid hands on them. And if they got to that place, you still give them the opportunity to get themselves right. And then they might have to serve your family, and you might have to teach the one who did that. Meaning you'll have to learn forgiveness and get a closeness to the one who was once your enemy, but now what they once used for unrighteousness is something that can be used to buy. Right? Even in that regard, we still, even when it was straight up so-called Wild Wild West, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, you still give them an opportunity. Even y'all still said when it was on eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, they still had an opportunity to get away and to get themselves together, and then they have to go ahead and give back to you, try to sow back into you, even though they can never replace that life, but they can have an opportunity to try to sow back into you what it is that they learned, and you even begin if somebody took your child's life, you might be able to teach them as if they're your child, and get them righteous, and by that somehow still honor what it was that y'all gave, and y'all therefore not being able to replace your child, but at the same time giving you a comfort and showing you what true forgiveness is, and showing you that love extends past what it is, showing you a picture of what his love might be later on when he's going to have his only begotten son come down, and you're going to deny him, and you're going to say, give us Barabbas, and yet out of that equation, he's still going to be able to love you and make you a fellow heir to what belonged to his son. You see what I'm saying? We're missing Yah's love in this, right? We're missing it. Stop stealing. Stop trying to say it's okay to steal because the enemy stole. I'm taking back everything that the enemy stole from you. What the enemy stole from you, he didn't steal anything. He has no authority. If you allowed the enemy in your life, then he stole. Or he didn't steal. He took what you allowed. He has no authority to steal. He has no authority to make you sick, Job. Somebody has to authorize it. And if the Most High authorizes it, it's not because you're a bad person. It's because that he knows what you have the ability to do and to go through. And even if you lose some of the closest things to you, he will make sure that you get double for your trouble. He'll give you your wife back or another wife if necessary, right? He'll give you children back, right? Even if your children don't want to listen to you, he'll give you children that will listen to you. I know this is gonna sound wild. This sounds bad, but look, Yah has to make sure that he's there for you. I know you don't want to hear this. I know it sounds wild, but look. Some of your parents have already decided. Some of your family members have already decided. Some of your children have already decided that because you are into the truth and you will actually keep the word of Yah, no matter what it says, that you deserve to be ostracized now because you're not celebrating wickedness. Yah's not going to leave you on an island, though. He has a family. This is why, for us, it's not just virtual. It is reality. We comprehend. This is why we're doing stuff like the 12 Myths of Christmas. We comprehend fully that if you're not going to be able to be in these situations that you have so much nostalgia for, you're going to have to find something else that's even more nostalgic for you, including persons to be with and to worship with and to love on. Right? Y'all realizes that there's going to be 2 in one house or 5 in one house, and 2 will be against 3 and 3 be against 2. He realizes that you think that he came that there might be peace, but he came that there might be division, because once you know the truth, you will have to divide from those who are not in truth. He realizes that mother will be against daughter, and daughter against mother, and father against son, and son against father, and father-in-law against son-in-law, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law. He knows this. He says this in scripture. This is why he needs to ensure that you are connected with a community that loves you, and you need to make it a point to really dive into that. You need to make it a point to really dive into that and be family with persons, rather than try to find out why somebody else is going to disconnect again. You need to really be family with somebody, rather than say why it is that you're not going, why you're not going to connect, or why this person. Some of you are so busy, you're worried about losing something that's not in truth. And I get it. Nostalgia, I get it. This is family. I get it. You came out of so-and-so's body, or you and so came out of the same womb, or came out of the same testicle, whatever. Right? How you doing, Focus? I get it. This is somebody that's supposed to be BFF forever. BFF, best friends forever, right? Put some more F's on there. Forever, ever. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be until truth is introduced. You said you were in Christendom, some stupid things out of your mouths. Taking back. Yeah. What'd you say? Don't covet. That's right. Come on, don't covet what you came out of. That's a word. All right. So stealing. Now we're on page 52. Stealing causes a person to put a greater value on the things stolen than on the value of justice. That's what. Come on, he preaching. Boy, he preaching. I'm telling you. All right, you ready? Let's say that again. That's he preaching right there. So I don't know if somebody caught that. He preaching for real. All right, nearly full of junior. He ain't a pastor, but he preaching. Look, stealing causes a person to put a greater value on the things stolen than on the value of justice. So when you steal something, you're saying, I don't care if it's justified. If you're stealing something, you're saying, I don't even care, if it's just or what I'm doing. You're just saying, I want, I lack, not realizing, do I need, not even thinking about, do I need, not thinking about the value of it, right? Because watch this, if something's valuable enough, you'll buy it. I don't want you to steal the word of Yah. Doesn't even make sense, does it? Doesn't even, like, it does. I don't even know how to describe that. But persons try to steal or take. You don't need to steal the word, right? If anything, sacrifice, give, right? Matthew 13. Look at Matthew 13, how many persons sacrificed to get the treasure. Right? The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that was hidden in the field. And for the joy thereof, when the man found it, he hid the treasure back where he found it, and he sold everything he had. Why? Because the treasure belonged in the land. So he said, I'll buy the land because the treasure is actually more valuable than the land. But everybody's worried about the land. Nobody's worried about the treasure. Nobody even knows the treasure is in the land. If I get the land, then the treasure is in the land. The treasure is more valuable than the land. He didn't steal the treasure. A lot of you guys think you're supposed to find the kingdom and take it away from where it's supposed to be. No, the treasure, the kingdom was hidden in the field. And for the joy thereof, the man found it, and he kept it where it was supposed to be, and he bought and purchased the land. Once he has ownership over the land, he has ownership over where the treasure is. Your body is earth and land. Once you find out the treasure is inside of you, sacrifice to keep what's on the inside. Right? Did you catch that? Right? So you don't have to steal. We don't steal the word. We don't take the word. We don't steal back. Somebody took from me. I'm going to steal back. No, you don't steal back from the enemy. I'm going to take it back. Y'all's going to give it back. I'm going to take vengeance. Y'all's going to get vengeance is his. Right? This is a different mentality. It's a different mentality. Right? Okay. So back here we are. Stealing causes a person to put a greater value on the thing stolen than on the value of justice. Also, once a person starts stealing, he or she develops a tendency to continue to do so. That's when it gets dangerous. Right? In a world of socio-material system dominated by racism, white supremacy, all people are encouraged to steal or to condone stealing by some people under some conditions. Those white people who practice racism, white supremacy, have stolen more things from people and have stolen more people from themselves than any other category of people in the known universe. So, racism, white supremacy is based off of stealing. Another real conversation we have to have. Racism, white supremacy is based off of stealing. They've stolen more, right? Not white people, those who are in racism, white supremacy, have stolen more than any other people, that means nation, any other nation in the known universe. So if you steal, all you're doing is just doing what racism, white supremacy dictates. Matter of fact, racism, white supremacy is where to the victor goes the spoils. So the thieves steal from you, steal even your name, your reputation. They steal your education, all that. Then they give you a piece of it back, and they teach even others who don't look like you how to dismiss you because, hey, you're just somebody who has nothing, even though they won't tell those persons they stole, right? So that you have nothing. And then they put you in a position where they say, if you steal, you're the one that's wrong. When the reality is actually they need you to steal, go into prison, be on their plantations, and at the same time, it will help also to continue the thought process and the teaching that, hey, you see them, they're nothing but thieves. They steal back. Well, we're stealing back what belongs to us. Yeah, but you're still a thief. You're still stealing, see? And black folk ain't nothing but thieves. All you're doing is perpetuating the stereotype. It's a lot. You see? So you must recognize that even to steal back is really doing nothing more than funding, in a sense, the system. All you're really doing is funding the system again. It's a diverse steps, identity, bodies, inheritance, joy, land, generations. And all you're doing is funding that system. That's all we're doing is, so this is why don't steal back. Don't steal, period. Don't steal from your brother or sister. Don't steal, period. Don't steal from your brother or sister. Don't steal, period. You hear what I'm saying? I'm going to say it again. Don't steal from your brother or sister. Don't steal, period. Do not take something that does not belong to you. It's a commandment. I know a lot of y'all are who are listening. If you're listening for the first time and stuff like that, you're right. You're probably, not really getting this, or you don't like where I'm about to go because I'm about to talk about law. But it's a law. Do not steal. And most of you comprehend that anyways, right? Even the person that says they don't want to follow law, you comprehend you're not really supposed to steal from somebody, even though you keep saying you don't care about law, right? But you know better. Don't steal. Don't even steal from the person who stole from you. This is why there are laws in place. If somebody steals from you, right? If somebody steals from you, right? As far as law is concerned, if somebody steals from you, I'll go there in a second, Sister Michelle, sorry. If somebody steals from you as far as law is concerned, there are laws in the books to protect your rights. So if we find out somebody stole from you, all we have to do is look at the law and say what that person stole doesn't belong to them. So we're simply going to return back to the person what is theirs. This is why you know that the world has really jacked up laws. Right? How so? Because they will say you can't steal. See what I'm saying? This is where you got to go. They'll say you shouldn't steal, right? Don't steal. That's what the world says. England, common law, do not steal, blah blah. Okay. But the English have, just as many other places in the world, but the English have all these museums where they have stolen. Let's just deal with one group of persons. I don't know, Benin, the Benin Empire. They have stolen a whole bunch of stuff, and they'll have a museum full of things they stole from the Benin Empire. The Benin Empire says, we would like our stuff back, please. What do they say? Well, that's something that was done a long time ago, and this and that. And is it really theirs? Yes, it's theirs. It was stolen. Right? You took something that doesn't belong to you. Give it back, please. But they say, well, but see, if somebody were to come, now watch this. But if somebody from the Benin Empire were to come and steal their stuff back, they would lock that person up. They would shut them down. They would have everybody do trade embargoes to make sure that those persons' lives were miserable for a long time, because you're not supposed to steal. So you can tell that in the world, they have no honor. This is why morality is really, we have to look at whose prism that moral compass comes from. They are immoral. Right? Immorality is the prism that you see it through. They are immoral. They have no more morals. That's why they are immorality. When somebody has to add an ity to a word, it means they're not what it says most of the time. Right? If we say reality, remember, right, Dr. T, I always bring this teaching back that you gave us a while ago because it's a great way of putting it. Whenever you put an ity on a word, you must always recognize and comprehend that ity is talking about how you see it, the prism you see it through. If somebody says this is reality, you have to figure out what's real to them, or what prism is telling them what's real. So if you are into virtual reality, you can get something, a real experience for you, but it's not real. But through the prism of the goggles that you put on, and through the sound that you're seeing and what you're getting visually, and if there's vibration that happens and all that stuff, it can feel real, right? Like some of you, I can give you virtual reality goggles and you'll forget. You'll look down, and even though you're standing on the ground, the floor opens up and you think you're falling. You'll freak out, right? It's virtual reality. You'll get scared. You'll know that you're underwater in an underwater virtual reality thing, and yet you'll still forget, even though you're breathing. You'll see a whale coming at you, and you'll get afraid thinking that you're going to get hit by its fluke, by its tail, right? Right, but the ity is a saying, it's a prism. See, so whenever somebody's talking about an ity, you always have to realize more than likely they're probably not talking about what's actually real. If somebody's talking about what was it that we were just talking about? I'm sorry. Reality. Sorry, I lost the thought. I think you got it. I was trying to say ITY, but there was something else I was trying to go. How you doing, Takwa? How you doing? Is it Shar Daddy? Not sure if I'm saying it correctly. Right? Ikadash, excuse me. How you doing? Right? Um, so whenever, oh, morality. That's what I was talking about. Morality. Thank you. Yeah, morality. So when you're somebody dealing with morality, usually they're not talking about something moral, right? Like if somebody's talking about mortality, somebody probably is not understand what being mortal is. Somebody says immortality, somebody probably doesn't even know what it is to be immortal, and what part of you is immortal, and what part of you needs to become immortal or needs to be put give a glorified body, right? Well, the same thing with morality. A lot of persons when they have this conversation about morality, you have the morals, right? I have to see what prism you're coming through, but more than likely you don't have what is called a moral, right? Because a moral is a truth. A moral is what Yah says. What is moral doesn't change. This is one of the greatest things that Yah has given me to make sure that I keep being what we deem this term to be successful, because Yah has given me His word. Anybody, look, I'm here to tell you, anybody who's going to make it in any kind of business, you're going to make it in any kind of thought process, any kind of heart process, whatever, any kind of love, any kind of relationships, I'm here to tell you this and this alone. You ready? I don't not this alone, but this is a huge piece. Okay. You need to stand on Yah's word because Yah's word never changes. I promise we're going to get back into this in a second as far as don't steal, but I hope you're catching this. You need to get back into Yahweh's word and stand on His word because His word does not change. So if Yah's giving you a promise, that means if He promised it, the promise didn't change just because the situation changed. Matter of fact, the situation might change because His promise doesn't change. In other words, He might have to change your situation because His promise was given to you in a situation that doesn't even make sense, right? So He has to change your situation in order to make your situation match His promise. And we'll miss it. We'll give up. Oh man, this is so tough. I can't believe you see what's happening with my house. You see what's happening with my car. You see what's happening with my funds. You see what's happening with blah blah. Yeah, it might be changing because He said this is what's going to happen. So he doesn't change. You keep trying to have morality. You keep trying to say, well, I'm looking at it through this prism and the way I wanted it to see, and I can't see it and blah. Yeah, because it's not morality. It's moral. You catch the difference? If it was morality, we could talk about all the different ways you could see it. But your ways are not His ways, nor your thoughts His thoughts. As high as the heavens are from the earth, are His ways from your ways, and His thoughts from your thoughts. You can't see it like He sees it. That's why it's what He deems to be moral. Your morality doesn't matter. Is it moral? Is what He's saying moral? Does it change or not change? He is Yahweh. He cannot change. So what His will is, it doesn't change. It doesn't move. It doesn't move, right? And persons will try to move you off your square. They try to tell you this and that. They try to make you all these different things. They try to tell you you're bad, blah blah, all these different things, right? It's His will doesn't change. Is it pretty petty? Thanks for being part of the community, right? So if there's a promise to you by Yah, you have to realize His promises don't change. All right. And I'm sorry, what was the question was asked earlier? Matthew chapter 5, and then I really got to jump back in. But what was it? It was Sister Michelle, I think. You said Matthew 5:38 through 48 or something like that. Oh, a question about the eye for an eye, I guess, right? Yeah. So if any, yeah. So you have heard it been said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. So yeah. By the way, so the eye for an eye. I don't know if we have enough time to go through. I'm not sure exactly what the question is. You might have to help me be more specific, but it could be a very vast question, and it's something that maybe might even be more like a Q&A thing, or maybe something we can talk about offline, depending on what the question actually or the specifics of it is. And how you doing, Sister Taylor? If I didn't say so already. So the eye for an eye thing, and by the way, if you look for it, you actually have to find more information on the eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth outside of the 66 books. A lot of persons don't know that. So this is an example of Christ actually speaking on something that if you look for it, you're like, I can't really find exactly what they're talking about. But if you look in the Apocrypha or so-called Apocrypha, you'll find what he's talking about. So therefore, that actually validates the so-called Apocrypha, right? A lot of persons don't know that, but yeah. So what was I'm sorry, but ultimately, this is basically saying not to try and return evil for evil. Those verses that you're talking about, don't try to return evil for evil. Don't worry about trying to get them just as much. And even at the end of it, verse 48, it says, be ye perfect, as your Father in heaven also is perfect. Be ye lawful, right? Because if we do things the way that Yahweh does it, Yah could wipe everybody out. If this whole thing is, if you do something to me, I'm gonna do something to you according to what percentage I can do it to. Like if you do Yah 1% damage, or you perceive yourself to be doing that, his 1% is always gonna outdo your 1%, right? If you think that you're gonna go ahead and do something, as far as steal or whatever, Yah could take anything that he wants from you and then some. So might as well be perfect, because he himself is perfect, and his law is what he lives by. His word is what he lives by. His law is his word, right? And his law is what he lives by, because it protects it, right? It protects not only your rights, it protects his right to continue to be on the throne. If he is a king that says something different than what he does, then he doesn't deserve to be king. And same thing, if we're going to be in the king's courtiers, and we're going to make sure we stop gossiping and lying and doing all that stuff, all right? But also too, we want to have to stop stealing. Just because somebody's taking something from you, I know you think that how honor works is that they stole from you, you get to steal from them. No, you're still a thief. We have to be aware of that, right? We're not called to be thieves. We're not called to be thieves. Hello, how you doing? I'm not sure the name says me, I think. Is it Nick Lawson, right? How you doing? So recognize those things. Be about those things. All right. Matthew chapter 5. I'm sorry. Back to the let's get back to this book. We're running out of time a little bit. Let's see. So stealing causes a person to put a greater value on the things stolen than on the value of justice. Also, once a person starts stealing, he or she develops a tendency to continue to do so. In a world socio-material system dominated by racism, white supremacy, all people are encouraged to steal or to condone stealing by some people under some conditions. Those so-called white people who practice racism, white supremacy, have stolen more things from people and have stolen more people from themselves than any other category of people it knows in the known universe. Under racism, white supremacy, stealing is particularly condoned if it is done through the very skillful use of deceit. If a person can steal from another by gaining his or her confidence and or by skillful trickery, it is oftentimes considered to be not stealing, but so-called gain of so-called living. When stealing helps to maintain, expand, and or refine the practice of racism, white supremacy, it is not generally considered to be stealing. It is oftentimes called progress. You catch that? So when stealing, you catch that? So when stealing is benefiting the system, they don't call it stealing. Same one we've been doing for a while. This is the easiest way to find it is Neely. Just looking up Neely, Neely, Fuller Junior PDF. But the book is called The United Independent Compensatory Code /System/Concept. All right. So if you like it, and we've been putting pictures up on the shout and stuff. We've been telling you guys get ready for a while. Get ready for a while, because it was coming. But prayerfully, you guys are doing well. And thank you to everybody for joining us. Appreciate, love y'all. So, but yeah, so you have to be careful, because even stealing is something that, once again, we've already talked about this, had uplifts the system. But now watch this. Stealing in this system, as long as it's, once again, going to benefit somebody else. This is like the snitching, right? Snitching is considered to be, in our code, something that we're doing to help to make sure, or if we're snitching, we are calling something out somebody else is doing, not to protect us or not because it's righteous. We're doing it to benefit the oppressor. That's when snitching, that's when telling or tattletelling is actually snitching. That's right. Two wrongs don't make a right. Exactly. Right. So our goal is not to be like the oppressor. Two wrongs don't make a right. That's exactly correct. All that being said, on top of that, now you have a problem with in a society that many of us are told we're supposed to go ahead and be like racism, white supremacy says, then you believe that you are supposed to steal, right? And charge it to the game. Or put it like this, if you don't like the word steal, how about replace it with this word? See, cheating. And you'll hear a person say, cheating never prospers, or cheaters never prosper, but you can't wait to cheat in the game. And you like, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Somebody heard that before? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. How you doing, Marcus? Yeah, they justify sin, all that stuff, for sure. Does so-called white supremacy ruin the all-white existence, the feeling they stole from me? I'm not sure what you mean by that, me, but we're coming out of a book. The book has made it very clear that there's three categories mainly we're talking about as far as people, although there are many people under these three categories. There are those that are considered to be non-white persons, they're considered to be white persons, and then there are persons that are considered to be racism, or white persons who uplift racism, white supremacy, or what you might call racist. So if somebody's come here thinking we're anti-white, or this book even is anti-white, you're in the wrong place. If somebody's come here thinking that I'm here to tell you why all black folk are going to be, that none of them support racism, white supremacy, you're in the wrong place. If you think that I'm here to say that any of us are without fault, you're in the wrong place, right? This is a series, by the way, it's part 6. So you have to make sure that when you're coming into the series and when you're coming into something, a discussion that's here, please make sure that you're a part of the discussion. So we have this, and we do this for hours a day, every day anyways. This is part 6 of this particular series. So you can always go to YouTube and find out more information on it. If you're on TikTok, look at our Linktree. If you look up something on there that says hashtag find Kofi, that should take you to the Linktree. Look up the playlist that says Neely Fuller and Code. That's what we're doing now. And you'll be able to catch up right then and there if you'd like to. Right, but this is based off a whole book once again, and you're supposed to read it. And really, the book is actually designed for non-white persons or those who want to be grafted in, at least. And if you're going to be grafted into it, you got to be all in. And so this is a code for us to make sure that we see what's going on and that we recognize certain things and certain terminology, and we call stuff out for what it is unapologetically. Really, I wouldn't even say unapologetically, because apologetics means that we should be able to discuss it or debate it, right? But within our diaspora, it should be something that becomes unapologetic, because after a certain time, we should have this stuff go from being racism to meism to twoism to tribalism to universalism, as we talked about, I believe, yesterday, right? So, you might have to study to show yourself approved. To have, to kind of pick up on stuff. This is a whole book, and technically you need to read this whole book. It's a workbook as well, and I'm not going to be able, even in it being done as a series, we're not going through the entire book, because we'd be here for years if we did this properly. So if somebody wants to study this for themselves and actually learn the terminology, they can go ahead and go down that route, right? But once again, that gets back to a place too. Remember, we talked about this before. We even had this situation yesterday with one of our dear sisters who heard us use the term white, was like, why are you using white? Why can't you just say women instead of white women? Because who we're talking about within this system of racism, white supremacy, we're talking about white women, Persons want to talk about all this stuff. Oh, we're anti-affirmative action. Affirmative action helped out white women more than anybody else. Now we're anti-DEI. DEI benefits white women more than anybody else. Right? And if it benefits white women more than anybody else, and they're married to white husbands, you don't think that it helps the white patriarchal system that you guys say you're so anti? Right? So the white men who are married to the white women who are anti-affirmative action, anti-8A, anti-DEI are the same persons whose wives get those promotions and get those business opportunities, and the money comes back into the same household. Right? So a lot of persons are not aware of this, but they're arguing about it, not even realizing that's part of a system. The system is designed to make you think that the person who said, hey, I'm grateful that maybe I'll get an opportunity finally, even though I get it, I'm getting a so-called unfair opportunity, but that's because my life hasn't been fair, because the system says it's not supposed to be fair. But you come down and you come down upon them, not realizing that, hey, guess who else is considered to be a minority? white women. And if white women are married to white men, right, then that means that even though they're not a minority, white women are not a minority. I'm here to tell you, I'm sorry to tell you this. If you're in, look at this. If you're in England, white women are not the minority. They're the majority. If you're in the United States of America, white women are not the minority. They're the majority. Period. I know you don't want to hear that. But because of feminism, which is a system that's supposed to make sure that certain women are on top and certain women are on the bottom, and that's right. It's not women on top, men on the bottom. It's for certain women to remain on top and certain women to be on the bottom. So because you're into feminism, not realizing that feminism is part of racism, white supremacy, you go and do all this stuff, and some of you are marching and keeping it up, not realizing that, hey, when they're getting rid of DEI, it's the feminists who are doing so. When they vote Donald Trump, as much as y'all want to talk trash about it, it's the feminists who are voting Donald Trump. Right? You want to say, no, the feminists, they're all leftists. No, they're not. The feminists. Oh, no, Gloria Steinem, she's for us. Gloria Steinem, the mother of the mother, whatever she's called, the godmother, the mother, whatever, of the feminist movement. She worked for the CIA. She's an operative. They put that in place to ensure that you were controlled and that you would continue to make sure that certain money and stuff goes into the same pockets. The United States of America doesn't exist without feminism. Not in the way it does now. But nobody wants to have that conversation, right? So stop worrying about trying to steal back or this and that or whatever. You don't even realize what you're stealing from or who's stealing from you or who's stealing your essence the whole time. It's the feminist movement that tells you to get rid of your hips and then sucks the fat out of their own stuff to put it in their own hips. Tells you to get rid of the melanin in your skin, and then at the same time, it's putting melanin in their own. Right? It's them who says get rid of it, don't have your babies and stuff like that. And then it's having meetings to say, why are we having less babies? We need to have more babies. Right? It's racism, white supremacy. They steal, and then they charge it to the game. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. If you ain't lying, you ain't trying. That's what they teach. All right. Page 52. Longest paragraph says this: is the system of racism, white supremacy functions in such manner that non-white people are not only expected to steal, but are also encouraged to steal. They are trained, bribed, and are enticed from the time that they are small infants. They are taught to want many things that will deliberately be made difficult for them to obtain. After being encouraged to want certain things, they are then denied the means by acquiring them without robbing, stealing, and or killing in order to get them. They are, in many instances, very deceptively encouraged to want many things that are of no constructive value, things that they do not need, and that no person can use constructively in the manner that is generally considered acceptable. Racists oftentimes ridicule their subjects because they do not have or do not want to have many things that the racists say a subject should strive to get. The racists say that their subjects, or non-white people, are backward if they do not want and strive to get all the things that racists say that a subject should have. The racists then proceed. So hopefully you're catching what's going on, right? You guys listening in, strap in now, right? Like I said, this is not always easy to hear, but this is stuff that you need to hear. We need to have honest conversation considering this, right? We need to really know what's going on. How you doing? Time is everything. How you doing, Darlene? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Mormon 723? Let him who steals, steal no more. Yep, exactly, right? Let him who steal no more. Come on, right? Let's keep on going, though, right? So now we're on page 53, okay? First full sentence, I'm starting it. The racists then proceed to encourage their subjects to develop a desire for those things. Once the subjects develop the desire, the racists act deliberately to directly or indirectly discourage the subjects from getting the things desired by any means other than stealing, robbing, and or killing. The racists then act to punish their subjects because of the manner that the subjects used to acquire the things that are that they were trained to desire. Under racism, white supremacy, non-white people are directly or indirectly encouraged to steal those things that are of use for a relatively short period. All things considered, it is better that no person steal from or rob anyone at any time for any reason. It is better for a non-white person, as long as he or she is subject to white supremacy, to beg for his or her needs than to steal anything at any time for any reason. I don't necessarily agree with that part, but it is what it is. This is one of the best ways to start to produce justice and to show how nothing is important without it. All right. So, besides that part of the last sentence that I just said, I'm pretty much in agreement with everything that Neely Fuller Jr. said here. Stop stealing and saying that, look, the way this is, and this is why I say this all the time, we always talk about racism, white supremacy, and we never, right, from a perspective that all white folk bad, we have a very caveman thing. Black man, righteous in everything. White man, bad in everything, right? Forgetting there's levels to this. Somebody, right, they had to be taught, just like you had to be taught. It's not even ingrained in you. Well, it's ingrained somewhat in DNA memory, but it's not even really truly ingrained, especially in your spirit, that this stuff is true. Hello, Rick. How you doing? If that's your way of saying hello, how you doing? If it's not, hello anyways. Hopefully you are actually able to do something besides troll. I think you better than that, right? But when it comes to racism, white supremacy, right, you have to recognize and realize that there are many persons who are ready to go ahead and promote all types of wild stuff, and including stealing. And they themselves have to be taught to steal. And this is something that nobody likes to hear, but yeah, you, if you're listening, racism, white supremacy tries to teach that everybody's supposed to steal. You are supposed to steal, and you're supposed to get stuff. Watch this, because this is what basically Neely Fuller Jr. just laid out for you. In order for you to steal, right, or what they say is we're going to give you something really high up. We want you to look up to something. So we want you to look up to this thing. It's something that you don't even need. It's something that has no value, but you're going to want it. We want you to covet something that's not even for you, right? We want you to look at a $5 million house. That's your goal. You don't need that to survive at all. It's not going to make you happy, but we want you, right? Yeah, it's or money or whatever, right? But let's just say, right, we want you to look at $5 million house. We want you to think Bugatti. We want you to think Lambo, right? We want you to think it's a GNX, whatever the one that Kendrick used. We want you to think GNX. We want you to think it goes 0 to 60. We want you to think I am the table. Uh-oh, we're going somewhere, right? We want you to think like that. We don't want you to think, righteously. We don't want you to think what actually takes care. We don't want you to think what actually gives you pleasure. We want you to think 7-course meal and never be happy with the fact that God's blessed you to where you can eat once a day and still survive. Everything's going to be far-fetched. Nothing's going to be where the Creator says it should be. Everything's going to be far-fetched, right? And you're gonna enjoy it. We're gonna teach you that you should enjoy how far-fetched this stuff is. You're not even going to believe, what you're supposed to get out of this. Right? Or you're not going to believe when somebody comes and says, you can be happy without this and that. You're going to look at them crazy. Happy without this, happy without this much money, happy without this. I can't be blessed if I'm only making such and such. If I don't vote, then I'll never be happy. Like we're going to give you things that have nothing to do with where you're headed at all. Right? We're going to give you a standard that's super past anything that you're supposed to be, not exceeding abundantly. No. We're going to give you a standard that you'll never really be able to meet. Whether you're white or black, this is something that's given to you, right? So now once we've given you the standard, we're going to tell you that you need to obtain it. But what if you can't obtain it legally? Or what if you can't obtain it not just legally? What if you cannot obtain it honorably? What if there's no morals attached to it? Right? What if there's no morals attached to it? What if there's no morality? Right? What if it's not moral? What if what you're going to do has to be immoral for you to make it? There's a saying. I wish I could. I don't really do business with persons like that. I think it's ethical. There's a difference between what's moral and what's ethical, right? I think that's how the saying goes, right? And so there's a lot of persons who will tell you straight up, yeah, I'm not really moral. right? I don't really do morals in business, but I do ethics. Be careful whenever if you ever run into somebody, some of you maybe haven't done business with persons like that before, but you might run into somebody who says that. Be careful. Run away if you if somebody tells you that, right? They'll tell you, yeah, I don't really do uh yeah, I don't really do all the stuff you're talking about. I do ethics. What they're telling you is I'm not gonna treat you correct. I'm not gonna be truthful. They're telling you straight up, and you need to hear that. They're not really going to teach you that. They're not really going to tell, but they'll tell you straight up. Yeah, like I'm not really into morals and stuff. Or if you say like, well, what is your morals in business? They'll say, oh, I have ethics. That's their way of telling you, I'm not I'm not about to be honorable in this, right? If I can get away with it, if I can get away with it on a contract, they're saying I will get away with it. If I can find a way to mess you over, I will mess you over. That's what they're telling you, and you need to catch that real quick. You know, a lot of you were trained in places like when you go to business school. So those of you who've gone to business school and get your degrees in administration or whatever you get it in, you got to recognize like when you go to business school, they're telling you straight up how to make sure you're ethical. They don't care about morals. If you go to business school, many of you have been taught ethics before morals. You know what it is to be ethical, not moral. You have no moral values. Yeah, right. Even in human resources, they're not supposed to worry about morality or well morals. They're worried about ethics. That's right. Just always justifying missing the mark or being sinful. That's what their responsibility is, and you're taught this from a young age. So once again, they're saying, we want you to go ahead and you're going to get the $1 million home. You're going to get the white picket fence. You're going to get the this many children. You're going to have try to be in the NBA. Try to own this. Try to own persons. Try to do that. They give you all these lofty things that really are things you don't need, and a lot of times they're not even going to be obtainable. And really, you should be okay with it not being obtainable. Because as much as they want to teach you and I that everybody's going to be rich, you have to be careful. All these seminars you're going to, and everybody's saying, I'm going to tell you how to get rich, and the only reason you're not getting rich, hear me now. And because there's some truth, but the half truth is always a whole lie. There is some truth in the fact that many of you, you'll go to these motivational seminars, and they'll say, look, some of you are going to get rich and some of you aren't, and the persons that aren't going to get rich is because you're not going to listen to everything I say and do everything I say. There's a little bit of truth to that because, hey, you have to be a go-getter. You got to be disciplined. You can't stray away from what the message is, what the word is, what the law says, etc. Right? I get that. But also, too, if we're talking about money, money is finite. Even if they print up as much of it as they want, it's still finite, and it's finite not just because they can't just keep printing it out. It's finite because when money's printed out, a whole bunch of it's not going to go to you ever. Right? 80 to 90%. I would say closer to like 95% of y'all in the world, but 80 to 90% of you guys in the world will never have a chance to see the money that's printed out because it's not coming to you. I know you don't know that. I'm trying to give you the game. There 80 to 90% of the money that's printed, first of all, is not even worth the money or sorry, the paper or the cloth that it's printed on. Right? Matter of fact, even your coins, right? A penny is not really copper anymore, not as much as it used to be. So a penny is not even worth a penny. Not just because of inflation, it's not worth a penny because it's literally not worth a penny. It's not even made like it used to be, right? As it keeps inflating in price, they actually keep making it less worthy of even being called a penny, right? It's immoral, right? You're dealing with immorality or what is immoral. Right. Exactly. So you're dealing with something that's immoral and you don't recognize it, but they keep giving you all these lofty goals. Try to obtain this, try to obtain this, try to obtain this. They'll tell you don't invest. A lot of you guys got rid of your cryptocurrency after we did all this stuff to say promote and even say, hey, we won't even tell you what to promote it or give in, but we promise you if you get these two, you're probably gonna be straight. Definitely if you get the OG Bitcoin. Any other altcoin, hey, there's a little bit of wild west to it, but you gotta study, you gotta research. But we were like, hey, and a lot of y'all got rid of it. Why? Because somebody else said don't do it. Then as soon as you got rid of it, what did they do? They bought it up. When they did things to the economy to make sure that it went down, then as soon as it went down, what did they do? They built it right back up. And now a lot of you are like, man, I wish I had invested, or I wish I had stayed invested. I wish I had stayed the course. Yeah, I wish you had too. Because the persons who did that, they told you the truth while they had all these meetings, and they were even putting stuff on YouTube telling y'all, hey, we're going to keep investing in it. We keep believing in it, because they have to act like they have no clue that what they're about to do, they're going to do to you. Now, Giant Food and Jewel Osco and all these other persons are invested in crypto. You could have kept what you had. Right? So even in the money and stuff like that, they give you these things, but then they steal from you. They find creative ways, and then they charge it to the game. They just say, hey, that's part of the game. You should have known. I don't know why you didn't get it. You should have known what we were going to do. They say things to you like it's public knowledge. We changed the laws, but you guys should have known. It's on the books. You should know where to go and read. Well, how would we know? You didn't teach us. Well, that's not on us. Didn't you go to school? Well, yeah, but our schools don't teach that. Well, that's on you. They say charge it to the game. See, that's stealing. And you're taught, and so they're taught that that's what you're supposed to do, play the game. And then a lot of you start playing that game against each other, not realizing that, hey, you need to come together, because your resources are going to be limited at first until you build yourself up and build yourself into a system that no longer has to depend on racism, white supremacy. You're going to be jacked up. How you doing, Sister Greta? You're going to be jacked up. How you doing, Dallas, Texas? But you keep fighting against each other. You guys, our diaspora, just in the United States of America, we are billionaires. We should be billionaires, right? But your mindset goes like this: your protective hairstyle is not coming from each other. Your protective hairstyle is coming from somebody who's getting it from India, who's selling it in the United States as a Korean, and is overcharging you as is, right? You don't even think about, man, I need some real hair. I'm going to get some of our hair. You don't do that because you don't want hair that looks like yours, right? You don't want locks or anything like that. You're looking for hair that looks Brazilian. You need that Brazilian, I don't know the numbers, right? Whatever it is, Brazilian number 24, whatever, I don't know. But you need the Brazilian number 24 that is part blonde here and part black here, so that it's Brazilian, so it's black enough that you could feel comfortable putting it on, but at the same time, it's mixed enough, it's white enough, so to speak, to where it still fits in and whatever. Brazilian yaki. Okay, you speaking the language I don't even know, sis. I'll take your word for it. Right? But I'm just saying, you're doing these things and you're all over the place and you don't recognize what's going on. This is something that's a different mindset for you. You're not even thinking that. You're being stolen from and you're stealing. We don't even realize that we're stealing. And then you start stealing from each other. You start stealing money. You start stealing business. Now when you guys are robbing each other in the corner, you stealing corners. This is my corner, this, that. And none of you really own. Stop stealing and get to a place to where you start realizing that the less we steal, first of all, the more righteous you are. That's more important. But secondly, the more important you are is making sure that your funds are going to get in the right place. All right, let's keep on going. We're running out of time. I'm gonna try to make it through all 10 of these today. Number 7, stop robbing. Literally just said that. Here we go. Stop robbing. To rob a person is to use direct bodily harm and or to use the threat of direct bodily harm. To take from a person any one or more things that he or she possesses, and then to use the thing or things taken. To use the thing taken to please the mind and or to make comfortable the body of the person doing the taking. To steal from a person is to take something from that person without that person knowing one or more of the following at the exact time of the taking: what was taken, when it was taken, where it was taken, how it was taken, why it was taken, who took it. A person who robs the same So that's to steal. All right, those 6 things that they just put up there. All right, excuse me. Okay, so that's to steal, right? But watch this. A person who robs has the same basic intentions as a person who steals. Neither robbing nor stealing helps to promote justice, which is anti-racism, white supremacy. A person should not rob for the same reasons that he or she should not steal. I think that's self-explanatory. We're not going to go over that. All right, number 8 is stop fighting. And if you notice, for all these things we've been talking about, they basically lead to fighting or they are fighting, right? Stop stealing, stop cursing, stop snitching, right? All these things basically are fighting or lead to fighting, or if you fight against each other, you're more apt to do these things one to another, right? Okay. Number 8, stop fighting. People should not fight as long as they can talk to each other. Mm. And they should talk to each other in such manner as to minimize conflict and or to promote justice. I mean, that line is so simple, but it's so true, right? We should not fight as long as we can talk, right? And even there's certain ways. Now, I'm going to read a little more of this because I might be stepping on his toes here. However, like, you know that there's even in our verbal communication, there is talking and there is fighting. Sometimes sometimes verbal fighting is worse than physical fighting. Physical fighting, sticks and stones break bones. Physical fighting, you can snap a bone in half and somebody still can walk eventually, right? Verbal fighting, somebody can say something and you can still be married to that person 50 years later, and every time you look at them, you recall what that person said. How you doing, Sister Judith? Right? Verbal fighting is sometimes way worse than physical fighting. I know that whole sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Whoever said that, they need to put that back in the pits of Shao. Because that is one of the worst sayings. It was nice to say as a child, and I get they were trying to say that to be like, to cover themselves. But some of the persons that used to say that, you used to say that, them words be hurting though still. You 57 years old and still recalling what they said when you was 5. Because words hurt. All right. All right. When people cannot talk to each other without trying to maim or do other bodily harm to each other, they should then do everything that they can to minimize or eliminate contact with each other. When people have no contact with each other directly or indirectly, they cannot have conflict with each other. So just a quick aside on that too. So sometimes, guess what? The best thing you can do is just not talk to somebody. I know that that's like, well, I should be able to talk. We should talk through. If you and that person can't fight, well, I'm not the reason why we fighting. I'm not the reason why we verbally fighting. Hey, whatever. If y'all can't talk without verbally fighting, don't talk for a minute, right? Right. Sometimes, what is it the saying? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Maybe when they don't hear your voice, maybe when they don't feel your love, maybe when they're not used to having somebody like you around on a regular basis, maybe they'll be like, you know what, maybe I should couch what I'm doing, right? Anyways, there is no justifiable violence by persons against each other. There is only justifiable counter violence. It is correct for all persons to do all that they can to avoid being involved in any form of violence. It is also correct for all persons to try to keep circumstances from becoming so imbalanced that counterviolence is required in order to promote justice. People who exist in subjugation to racism, white supremacy, should only use counterviolence, and they should use it only for the following purpose. So before we go over those purposes, I hope you're catching it. You should only use counterviolence, right? We said we are to be connected. We are commanded to be closely connected to everyone. Yeah. So, in power of death and life, and power of the tongue, right? And the sword too. So watch this. If you're talking about counterviolence, counterpunching, right? So I'm more of a counterpuncher. Like I like to jab. I'm gonna stay outside, right? Right. I'm gonna stay outside. I'm gonna do what I need to do. But I'm waiting for you really to punch. I'm 6'5.5", so my reach is always, well, not always, but for most persons that if I were to have a fight, we were to fist fight, most persons you're not gonna get to me. Like I'm even starting to kind of, as I grow older, I'm kind of playing around with this whole thing. When you put your hand in front of somebody, I kind of starting to even play around with that because first of all, to get to me is enough, but I got a long reach, so. You trying to come to me, I'm trying to jab. I want you to show what you're gonna do. And once you come at me, then I'm gonna figure out whether it's a kick, whether it's punch, elbow, whatever. I want to react to what you're doing. All right. Now, if you're not counter punching, but you're punching, you're leading, trying to come in, trying to figure out. There's a time for that too, even with me being taller, where I might need to make a move because you're a counter puncher. Now, if you're a counter puncher and you're smaller than me, though, I'm gonna tear you up, right? Because my reach is bigger. So if you're waiting for me to react, I can react. I have more time, right? If you're just waiting for me to move all the time, I'm gonna always have more time than you because I have a longer reach. Okay. That being said, right? So the counter punch is when I'm even if I'm jabbing at you, I'm really more so just I'm not even trying to hurt you sometimes. I'm just trying to like gauge where you are, see how far away I got to go. But also, I'm trying to get a reaction, right? If you, right? So I'm the type of person, even in real life, I don't necessarily have to be jabbing at you or anything, but if you somebody threatening, if somebody come up to me, man, I'll F you up, blah, blah. I'm the type of person, okay, go ahead, right? Go ahead, right? If you, in other words, and sometimes I even say, you take the first punch, bro. What I'm telling you is okay, you can swing first if you want, but after you swing, like just realize I got more coming. So as long as you're ready to go, but you gonna start it. Yeah, I'll let them know straight up. Like, yeah, hey, I'll F you up. Be like, okay, bro, go ahead. And I'll turn. I'll be ready in the fighting stance. I'll be trying to back away because I'm always trying to back away. I'm always trying to be nonviolent. If I never fight again, besides sparring and stuff like that, but if I never fight again a day in my life, cool, right? I'm the type of person. I'll back off. I don't want no problems, right? Because if I'm fighting, I'm trying to fight to the end, and you might be fighting for the same reason. That means one of us probably ain't gonna make it. So I'm trying my best. So at any time, right? I'll be ready to fight if you need, but I'm gonna back away. I don't care if you talk trash about me. I'll back away. You can call me all type of punk, this, that, whatever. Cool. I'm gonna back away while you calling me it. Because at the end of the day, two persons walk away. This should always be a goal of ours, right? But so the same thing. It's okay though if somebody's coming at you. If you come at me, then I got a counterpunch. If you come at me, right? If you walking in on me, I might have to hit you with something on the way in and come back, right? I might have to take your chest out. But if you leave me alone, I'm cold. But if you come at me, okay, I got to do what I got to do. I'm gonna go home, even if you don't think that I am. I promise you, I'm gonna make it home, right? That's how my mind still works. That's military mind, right? Like when we over there, I'm not fighting just against you. I'm fighting to make my way back home. I got my babies on the mind. You know what I'm saying? So I got to make it back home. So same thing in your walk, right? If somebody's coming at you, hey, be ready to defend yourself. That's why we're not trying to teach anybody to be weak. Even the whole turn the other cheek thing that you see in scripture, turn the other cheek does not mean let them slap you again. Turn the other cheek was a way of saying that you were supposed to be addressed in a specific manner. Like you guys ever, now this is not in biblical times, but you guys have seen plenty of things, where Bugs Bunny comes and he grabs a glove off his hand, right? And he slaps the dude. But if you slap the dude, then what? This means war. We gotta joust. Or we have to take several paces and shoot at each other, or we have to duel. If you slap somebody. But back in the day, in the time of Christ, especially in romantic issues that were going on, if you slap somebody, what happened was that there were two ways of slapping somebody. Now we're not sure if it was like this was the better way or that was the better way, but either way, you can slap like this or you can slap like this, right? So there was, let's say, and usually backhanded is more disrespectful, even if forward you can cause a lot of damage too. Backhanded is more disrespectful, right? So basically, like if somebody hits you, like if somebody opens up is one thing, but somebody, right? So usually it's thought that this was probably considered to be more disrespectful. So what happens in Roman times is that if somebody slaps you, right, pow, we still got to fight, right? But you have more respect for me. Right? If somebody slaps you, bam, okay, all right, we still gonna have to squabble, but at least you respect my humanity, right? But if somebody go like this to you, oh, what they're saying is you're not even on my level, right? Like we still gonna fight, but what they saying. So what would happen a lot of times if somebody went like this to you, right? I'm not saying it's a whole different culture, it's a whole different time, but if somebody went like this to you and they went to slap you, or if they actually slapped you, you would actually go, hold up, bro. We don't have to squabble, but do you really want to squabble like that? Like you would actually turn the other cheek and be like, I'll give you an opportunity. You trying to hit me like this, or you trying to hit me like this, right? So when it says turn the other cheek, like it's not saying you don't have to defend yourself. It's not even saying we don't have to squabble. It's not even saying you might have. It's saying literally, like if somebody does something like that so disrespectful, give them an opportunity. Hey, do you really want me to treat you like you just treated me, or do you want to at least open up to show? Oh, okay, like you treat me like a human being. This is not necessarily an Israelite phenomenon, right? But this is something that they, being under Roman jurisdiction, would have known about, right? So if you hit me like this, the person would be like, hold up, no. Or even if the person was doing like that, you'd be like, oh, for real? And then you would turn the other cheek. You'd be like, hey, if you're going to do this, I don't look at myself as being lower than you. If you're somebody that took a slap like this, then you straight up just, you was nothing. You was like, the simp of the simps. You was the low of the low. But if somebody slapped you, right, it was some courage, but also was saying, no, I don't even care. I don't care who you is, bro. You better hit the other side and you better hit me right. Because if not, it's really about to go down. You know what I'm saying? That's what you were saying, right? So that was really what that was saying. But even in that, our goal is to try and be counterpunchers, right? Our goal is to be counterpunchers. If you punch at me first, all right. You know what I'm saying? And even in that, if you offer the other cheek, you're still saying to the person, in essence, by the way, just to finish that up, you're saying to the person still, like, hey, I still would like to go ahead and give you every opportunity to be my brother. Like, even if we're going to have to squabble, even if we're going to be upset, even if we're not going to be in each other's presence for a minute, like, let's leave as brothers rather than you trying to be disrespectful, or as sisters, right? Okay. Anyways. So, but yeah, so stop fighting. Stop fighting. So, in our counter violence or counter punch, if you will, should only be used for the following reasons: to protect themselves or others from acts of deliberate, immediate, direct, and functionally avoidable violence in any person or persons. In protecting themselves or others, only a minimum of necessary counter violence should be used. So only defend yourself is necessary. I need to learn that one. To enact maximum emergency compensatory justice. Um, okay, yeah. We'll go on to number 9. We'll go over to number 9. We're almost out of time. We gotta finish this up. And thank everybody for being on. Appreciate, love you. All right. Number 9. Stop killing. I don't even know if I'm gonna explain this. We're just gonna read this. Stop killing. Exceptions: when forced to do so in direct defense of self, others, and or major property, or except when forced to do so through the enactment of maximum emergency compensatory justice. Now that term, I mentioned it twice. I haven't gone through it in this series. I'm not sure if we will go through it, so that might be something you need to read in the book. Maximum emergency compensatory justice. All right. Even in direct and immediate defense of self, of others, and or in the direct protection of major property, it is best to avoid killing or maiming. Killing any aggressor should only be done when there is apparently no other known way to put an immediate stop to his or her aggression, and or when every reasonable effort has been made to escape the immediate fury of the aggression. It is the correct, or I'm sorry, it is correct for a victim of racism to willfully and deliberately kill and or execute no persons except racist. By the way, racists, or those who uplift racism, white supremacy, can be black or white, right? According to the code. Okay, so to willfully and deliberately kill and or execute no persons except racists or white supremacists or those who uphold it, and when done, that victim of racism should then kill. Okay, I'm not gonna say that. I can't say that, first of all, on social media. I'm not going to say that. I don't agree with that. All right. Such killings and or execution should never be done unless the victim of racism is made subject to racism, white supremacy in a manner that is totally unbearable and apparently inescapable, except through non-existence. Right. For those of you who are reading it, you know why I can't say what it says. So once again, that's page 55. Go get the book or read the book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System, or Code/System/Concept. Neely Fuller Jr. All right. There's certain things that I can't say, even if I want to, and some of what he just said I don't agree with, because he's talking about unaliving oneself, and I can't. We're not going to break that down because we don't agree with that. All right. All right, let's see. Number 10, last one. Number 10, stop squabbling among yourselves and asking those who are into racism, white supremacy, to settle it. This is a huge one, and I wish, I'm gonna rush through it. But man, if I had more time, look, stop squabbling amongst yourselves, and then asking for racists or those in the racism, white supremacy to settle it. One of the major non-just acts that racists or white supremacists commit is to establish situations that cause and or encourage non-white people to squabble among themselves, right? So one of the goals of racism and white supremacy is for you to fight each other, right? Racists do not approve, right? I'm gonna say that again. One of the biggest issues in racism, or one of the biggest things to cause racism, white supremacy to continue to have its power, to give its mojo, so to speak, is that you and I are going to fight each other, right? That's one of the biggest things that they need, right? That's one of the biggest things that they need, okay? Right? Racists do not approve of any fights or arguments between non-white people that non-white people settle among themselves without the so-called help of the racists. So they don't approve you fighting unless they can tell you when to start, how to start, what it's about, etc., etc. If they can't be in charge of the fight, they don't want you to fight. Racists do not knowingly allow any non-white person or persons to do anything that does not directly or indirectly help to promote racism, white supremacy. Racists approve of and encourage non-white people to fight each other, kill each other, squabble with each other, name call each other, and or do anything that best helps non-white people to remain confused and non-constructive. So you're fighting each other is used by them because it helps confusion and it helps you to not construct anything. It helps you to never build. One of the reasons you don't build with each other is because how you build with each other while trying to knock each other out. Right? How do you lift up leadership when nobody's supposed to be a leader over you because you don't need no leader? How do you build up businesses when you think that you got to fight to be the only black business in there because you got to make sure that all the other businesses lift up racism, white supremacy? Right? You're supposed to fight against each other. You're supposed to fight against each other. That's what they want you to do. Right? You're supposed to fight against each other. I'm sorry, once again, you can... I don't know. If somebody wants to write it in the chat again, I'm sorry. Can somebody write in the chat? I can't write in the chat on TikTok. It doesn't let me. So if somebody wants to write in the chat, if you don't mind, can somebody write the name of the book, please? Right. And if you want to, just stick around for the shout out. On the shout out at the end, I'll put the book cover on there again. We've been putting it on there for a little while, even before we started the series, but I put it on there again. And when the music plays, you can make sure that you got it for sure. You can get the entire, because even what I'm saying, technically, it's not even the entire title of the book. The book is extremely long. All right. And if you want to as well, feel free to go watch the recordings. The recordings, I say the name of the book, and I say it very slow a few times, especially when we start the series. If you look at part 1, you'll hear me say it over and over and over again very slowly. And you'll probably even see it written in the comment section then on there as well. All right. So racists, however, are not in favor. Racists, however, are not in favor, and we're almost done. By the way, it's 11, so I got to finish up because it's actually time to finish up. So we're almost done. So I'm literally going to put the picture up on the screen in just a little bit. Right. Racists, however, are not in favor of the extermination of all non-white people. They are in favor of many non-white people being killed, but not all of them. They have no desire for non-white people to become extinct. If non-white people became extinct, there could be no way for white people to practice racism, white supremacy. At least they could not practice it in the form of white supremacy. So they could, or let me read it the way he put it. Sorry. If non-white people became extinct, there could be no way for the white people to practice racism. At least they could not practice it in the form of white supremacy. Racists want non-white people to continue to exist. It is not possible to practice white supremacy if non-white people do not exist. The racists want non-white people to continue to be their subjects and victims. And notice he said this word subject a few times, meaning we're dealing with a kingdom. All right? So they're subjects and victims. While using non-white people as victims, the racists particularly want the non-white people to squabble among themselves, and they want the non-white people to beg them, the racists, to settle the squabbles. This is one of the major ways that the racists have of maintaining their power. They also do this to prove their power, feed their egos, and amuse themselves. And we just finished at page 56. All right, so we'll finish there today. Thank you all. I'm going to put the title of the book up during the shout out. So if you just want to stick around for a little bit, we've been putting it up every time after we finish this. And we've been putting it up probably for about a month or so before we started, just to make sure everybody knew we were going to get into this book. excuse me, just so that we knew everybody was going to get into this. Everybody's going to get into this book. They'd be able to have um, a copy, or I'm sorry, be able to get it, or be able to get the PDF, or even get the free PDF, or purchase one for themselves, whatever the case might be. So, prayerfully, you guys have gotten it, and then, like I said, we'll put it up during the shout out so that you guys have it. So when the music begins to play, it'll be one of the first things that pop up on there. So you, if you just don't mind, sticking around. That's why we say during the shout out, there's some important things that pop up. A lot of persons check out at this time, but we actually put some things up that if you literally just were to look, take a screenshot, or even, you know, check out for a little bit, announcements wise, stuff like that. We try to put things up, not just only to be like, oh, look at the pictures and stuff, which is part of what we do, but also to businesses, a lot of different stuff. So I'll put the book up in just a little bit during the shout out. But thank you all again for being on. I won't even explain how the shout out works. If you want to just see how what the persons are doing, and you want to look at the pictures in the background, just follow the directions or follow the guidance. Just see what everybody else is doing during the shout out, and you'll be able to kind of check in and see what's going on. But we love you out of life. I hope that you guys take care and continue to do great things. Hopefully, you've been getting something out of this series. We'll see you at 6 p.m. Eastern New York time tonight for the 12 Myths of Christmas, Part 6. And then we'll see you tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time on the live session. We'll put the link out for the video for the 12 Myths of Christmas in the same places we've been putting them. Thank you all for being on, and thank you for giving us some time. And we honor you. We honor your presence. And we look forward to talking to you guys very, very soon. So I'll leave it there. As always, we give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we're thankful for everything that she does for the diaspora. And I'm definitely thankful for everything she does in my household to keep us going. We love you all to life. We hope that you guys continue to strive to be greater. Remember, no snitching, no fighting, no cursing. All the great things that we learned today. And thank you all for continuing to do great things. We'll talk to you guys soon. And don't forget December 28th, Women in Red. Don't forget December 31st, Watch Night Service. And remember that we're working towards continuing to hashtag finish strong and hashtag expect the blessing, so that we can make sure that we continue to develop hashtag a safe place. Talk to you guys soon. Remember, as always, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Take care. Talk to you soon. And if you just stick around a little bit on the shout out on TikTok, you got to come over to TikTok, but if you stick around a little bit for the shout out, we'll make sure that you can, see even the cover of the book. All right. Talk to you guys soon.